And I asked Jason where. One nation. Injustice.
Me neither. And I don't see a chat to tell them.
Cody, can you hear us?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we haven't heard a single word that's been said so far.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, the only thing we've done is give the pledge of allegiance, and then I'll read the rules for the public comment, that's what's said. Okay, now's the time for public comment. This is a time for the public to make comment to the commissioners. It's not a debating time, it's not a question and answer. Each person has 3 minutes. We ask that you keep it civil and you don't do personal attacks. We also already called the comment from the room, there were none, so now we're now taking any comments on Zoom.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Jody Ferguson, Morrow County citizen. As you are soliciting bids for the ambulance service, I would ask that you assure that the providers have second out crews that can be on scene in around 15 minutes versus the 30+ minutes we are experiencing now. Also, that the providers utilize the proper resources in the county. If they are needing medical personnel to get to a scene, that a quick responder is paged out. Quick responders are not under the local fire departments, so when the fire departments are paged out, you are not necessarily getting medical personnel. Also, as you consider the location of the circuit court building, I encourage you to think outside of the box and consider the possibility of collaboration with others and not make a decision based solely on the cost of the courthouse being located at the old mill site. We've heard from State Representative that the Port of Morrow has money to invest in the infrastructure. At the candidates forum on Monday, we also heard from a Port of Morrow board member that there's money and that the port wants to invest in the project. We also heard Commissioner Drago Jr. speak of wanting to keep the courthouse in Heppner. The north end of the county has the Port of Morrow, jobs, and new housing. This project is the perfect opportunity to put the south end of the county back on the map. And as commissioners of the county, you can champion this project to assure that the whole county is plentiful and growing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jody. Is there anyone else on Zoom that would like to comment? Raise your hand if there is. Okay, you see anybody, Matt? No?
No.
Okay. Okay, we'll conclude public comment and move on next to the open agenda. Is there anything the commissioners want to add to our agenda?
No.
Right, and Jeff?
No.
Okay. Next, we have a consent agenda. This is normal, so everybody understands. This is normally when items are put in the consent agenda, they're passed without discussion or report. But commissioners have an opportunity to pull things out if they want to and deal with them more extensively. Anything you want to pick out?
Well, just a scrivener error on a spelling of a name is all. I've already talked to Valerie about it.
Yeah, okay, you got that thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move for approval of the consent agenda. I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, next we move into our administrators report, and they'll start off with 5A, our ambulance provider selection process. So Matt,
With the passage of the ordinance, at our last VOC meeting, we wanted to, just present a schedule of how we're going to, proceed with provider selection. I'd like to share that, just a slides.
Yeah, I turned that off under security.
Okay. And so what we have on the ambulance service provider selection process, okay. The ambulance service plan, lays out several requirements that are fairly general in definitions. These are the 6 points that are shown on the ambulance service plan, for what the requirements are. Show what level of service will be provided for hospital emergency care. Show what the call volume and financial ability the provider will be, so we can provide financial soundness for operations. Now, this is the one where, we know that our ambulance service is at a low enough level, it's not going to pay for itself. And so if they are providing service, they need to show how that's going to be covered. And if they need to have any payments from the county to provide service, this is where they would have to outline that. Show the service will provide quality care to persons residing in or passing through a service area. Follow all the regulations, the state regulations that are set up with the OHA, OMB, and the DMD. And then provide the following information: the proposal number, type of ambulances, all of that's listed out in the proposals. And of course, the commitment to adhere to policies and procedures. We are finalizing that, the RFP, which will provide a layout on how that should be provided, and that we and how they should submit that. That'll be ready, and we'll be talking about the schedule on it going forward in just a second. The other thing on the specific guidelines for the proposals and the initial providers, we need, since we do have 3 ASA areas, we are going to ask the prospective providers must provide a proposal for individual ambulance service areas. So we have 3. We want to be able to rank and compare between the ones. They may submit individual proposals for multiple ASAs, so they can say we want 1 or 3 or 2 or whatnot. And if there's any benefits on getting multiple, we'd like them to outline that in a separate submission. Then once those are submitted, the selection committee and later the board of commissioners can pull in and have direct dialogue with the proposals to kind of go out and get clarifications and discuss what their service options entail, and possibly even negotiate some of the changes to get a right fit for each of the service areas or the entire county as it may be. Our proposed schedule is to have the RFP posted on May 6th. We'll also put a listing in the local newspaper, send it out to adjoining counties and such, so that's posted. We also need to send it to OHA saying we are requesting proposals for providers. We'll have a date for written questions 2 weeks after that, May 20th, and then the proposal deadline will be 2 weeks after that at 2 p.m. on June 3rd. From there, we'll do a reconciling of those, get those, make sure which one's proposal should go forward. We'll meet with the, selection committee, June 5th through June 12th. And then try to have everything ready to bring a recommendation to the board by June 19th. So that's the proposed schedule we're looking at. As you know, the date for enactment of the ordinance is not until mid-July. And so that's what we're doing. We're hoping that we can get this all set up, give a month for any providers to stage, set up, and take care as necessary. If they can do it earlier, our interim services, we can cancel that contract as necessary to allow services to continue. The composition and selection committee, I was directed by the commission, and I appreciate accepting my recommendation to get representatives from all 5 cities. 4 of the cities have responded. This is the list of the people that they have proposed for it. Lexington, there's some mitigating circumstances. They weren't able to make their selections last month, and so we're expecting that in their May meeting. So we'll have that shortly. I've had confirmation on that. We have Brenda Prophet, who's a council member from Boardman, Emily Jack, local medical professional in Hefner, Jerry Reitman, business owner in Ione, Michelle Patton, who's the mayor of Aragon, and Lexington will get that back. County representatives, that would be myself and Bob Blackmore, just as legal counsel. And then EMS professional, we're looking at either 1 or 2 from adjoining counties. We're just waiting for confirmation on that. What I'd like to do is at our next meeting, I'll just bring those names back for the commission to recognize and authorize us to move forward with those names. So that's the preliminary selection committee. I'll be looking to reach out to them if the commission is all right with this schedule and with the committee as it's currently comprised, and let them know that we're looking at that June 5th to June 12th timeframe to have meetings and get things in line. So Bob Blackmore's, we are big borrowing Stilling from another county that had an ambulance service RFP go out. So it is something that's established, has been used elsewhere. We are reconciling that to the needs of our counties. And so we will have that ready by Friday afternoon and submit it out on Monday is our plan. Just wanted to ask if there's any questions from the commission on the schedule and the composition of the selection committee at this time.
Well, I have a question. Yeah, anything more on that? Could you describe the structure of the meetings, how they're gonna be held, where they're gonna be held, public, private, whatever like that?
So this, we will be, I mean, they will be reviewed. We aren't making it a public meeting where it's on recording. We'll be looking and asking questions. This will be more like a contract. It's a true RFP where we bring in the
And when you say we, you mean the board,
the selection.
committee.
Mhm.
Okay, is that gonna be zoomed, I guess, is the public, I've been getting asked this question.
Oh, yeah. I would prefer if it's not Zoomed, but we might have to, just depending on how many we need to do. We may or may not need to make some accommodations for that, particularly for the adjoining counties EMS professionals. I'm hoping that we can just get a series of meetings scheduled where we can get a commitment from the committee to meet and go through the scoring and determination. We do anticipate asking some additional questions if they haven't received all the information. So that's why we kind of give ourselves about a week to go through those meetings and take consideration.
Okay, well, thank you for
Okay. So that's where we're at on this. We're excited to get it going. We look forward to two of the interest parties, of course, are Morrow County Health District. They've indicated several times they're looking to go forward a proposal, and then Boardman Fire is looking to do as well. But we will post it to make sure that any other interested parties will have an opportunity to see and put in a proposal if necessary.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed schedule for the selecting municipal providers of the ASP.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carried.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed selection committee with the two pending positions to be submitted at open date as well.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Cory. I'm just gonna pull up the other spreadsheet. We have that. Ready, apologies. Okay, and it's with the next item is the circuit court building location. I believe we've got Doug and Earl.
Now,
Yes, sir.
before we jump into the meat of this, could you just so I know everybody's heard this, I mean, we've been talking about it quite a while, just give a brief review of the what preceded this and why we're at the position we're at.
Okay, so over the last year, we've been under the assumption that per ORS and the other state standards that the county courthouse needed to be within the city boundary of Hefner. That the circuit court was to take place in Hefner. As such, we had finalized down from several sites down to 9, down to 4, and had determined that the fairgrounds was the preferred choice based on cost, availability, and size of the area. More or less it's shovel ready and close to utilities, and the county owns it. We did realize that there was going to be a impact on the particularly the fairgrounds parking during the county fair. This 2-acre lot is where they stage a lot of the horse race as the ropers and other contestants come in and park there for that weekend. And so we were looking at options to parking. We're still working through several other items, and did cause some discord with neighbors. And in the end, there was efforts on the state level, and the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of the state, sent out a notice saying that her interpretation is that it just needs to be within the county and can be beyond the city limits of Ohio. As such, we looked at 5 different sites that could be good fits across the county. Of course, we could have opened up to the whole county and had people come forward with proposals and that. With the timing of our grant, it's supposed to be spent by the end of 2026. And so we did kind of a focused area. We looked at 1 in Oregon, one in Boardman, 2 in Lexington, and then the mill site that the Port of Morrow had offered up for consideration. And so as we looked at those, we ruled out a couple because of just some, existing conditions. We'd have to tear down some buildings, check some things, environmental. We also took in the geographical, political proximity to the current courthouse and the historical connection to Hefner that the courthouse serves. While the grand dame of the courthouse and the symbolism there will stay true and will be there for continued use by the county, there is the the perceived and realistic impact of having the courthouse down in the Hefner area. And we acknowledge that. And as we discussed in executive session last week, the commission requested me to and the design team to narrow down and give some cost impacts for several of the sites. We have one in Boardman.
Before, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but before we get off the current courthouse, there was an extensive study there. Can you tell us, that was deemed completely off the menu as far as the state and all the regulations, right?
Yes,
Because this is still brought up sometimes.
yeah,
Use this courthouse, but, okay.
we could revitalize that courthouse. It would be entirely on our dime. The funding that's being given right now through the state is for new construction.
And that funding is 50%.
50%, they've authorized $12.75 million to go to that. People look at it and say $12.75 million, I could build quite a building for that. One of the realities of it though is the court system has went in and specified certain standards that need to be applied to building courthouses, which includes anything from just the structural to the types of windows to the size of offices that judges get. And yes, our district attorney is a little envious of the size of the court judge office.
Makes no sense. Judges and
But it's the law. And so those things, including the quality and the standard of construction is much higher than what we did here in the Bartholomew building or in the Morrow County Governor's Center in Oregon. And so this is going to cost more. With that, as we looked at that study, there was some things to seismically right fit it to make sure it's a little more stable, to add on to provide some additional space. But unfortunately, that would be all on the county's time. And it still would be very expensive and it doesn't answer all the space needs that we have.
Parking too.
Parking as well. You know, we could get creative on some parking, but we're limited. And you know, when there's a juror selection going on in here, Justin sends us out a nice email and says, either get here early or, you know, park elsewhere. And so that's generally what the tone is. This is a great building across the way there. I'm looking at it right out there. Beautiful. And we do need to put money into it, preserve it. We'll be looking at that hopefully as soon as this Justice Center is done and we can move people to wherever that location is. And so that's what we're looking at. The reason why we're not looking at refurbishing this quite literally is the state's money, which is 50% of it, has to go to new construction. And even if it could go to remodeling, the size of the offices, the office space, the juror's room is all seriously inadequate. And that's actually what's been part of it is our circuit court judge and the chief justice has said this is inadequate for new or for current court use. We've been limping by, and I've got some grand old dreams for that building once we get to the point where we can use it for other uses. But for the court, it just is not feasible. Okay. All right. Any other background you'd like to share?
I assume there's people that don't know how we got here. So
Yeah.
that's why I know a lot of people, but I appreciate that. Because it kind of refreshes in everybody's mind, because I still hear some of these questions. Just to make sure everybody knows why we're doing what we're doing. But thank you.
And it is important to note that this is a statewide capital funding program that they're doing. They're looking at all the counties that have outdated courthouses. It's not just ours that's being looking at and being shown to be historically incredible, but you know, usably inadequate. And so other counties are going through some of these pains as well. We were on the first round, we got approved. And that happened before, well, this commission kind of helped do it, get started beforehand, and appreciate the testimonies that Sheriff Sykes and others went down to Salem to put in to make sure that these funds were just, yes, just to make sure that this fund is available. And so with that, we're now looking beyond the scope of Hefner, and got Doug and Earl on if they'd like to.
Doug and Earl.
Yeah.
Introduce them.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you've got an echo going on, but we can hear you.
Gotcha. Well, good morning, Matt and commissioners. The chart that you're looking at, Kelly Stewart with DLR is going to lead the discussion through that so that it makes sense for us. If you have any questions, obviously we're all online ready to help out.
Make sure I got Kelly unmuted.
Okay.
There again, if you could tell who you are, what's your title, and who you're with. So everybody knows who's talking to you.
All right. Kelly, I believe you're unmuted.
Yep. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Stewart. I'm an architect with DLR Group. And over the past several weeks, we've been working with Alliance, so Doug and Earl, and our civil engineer to analyze the site options that Matt described. So at the last meeting, we narrowed it down to the 4 columns you see here on the chart. Thanks for zooming in a notch. 2 of the sites, the Kinzua Mill site north and south, we have separated because the site's over 100 acres. So we selected a location to the far northeast and to the far northwest, where based on just oral history, these portions of the site seem to be least likely to have been contaminated by the milling process. The extent of the environmental and geotechnical findings are still unknown and would need to be confirmed by various surveys. So that's what's listed on the lower lines, the green and orange lines there. So it wouldn't be till after these survey results are in that these sites could fully be accepted formally as the final site location. So we expect these surveys would take at least 3 months, depending on the findings. It could lead to more surveys or take longer. And then after that, we would be able to fully vet these as appropriate sites, and then the design could pick up where it left off. So we discussed getting started on the surveys right away, but decided ultimately not to do that just yet, because there's other differentiators that impact the site selection, and we're able to evaluate those differentiators right away today, rather than waiting 3 months. And so those differentiators are the costs for providing water and sewer utilities. So that's the blue and brown lines. And so the subtotal line is kind of the headline here to review with you today. The subtotals for utilities between each of the sites. So with the 2 sites to the left, those are no additional cost from what the base budget is. And for the north site, since it's farther from the city, the range of potential costs varies depending on which type of utility options we pick, whether it's, a well on site or connecting to the city based on the distance from the city. The one on the left is more because it's farther, so ranging from 2.2 million to 2.9 million, versus if we stayed to the far southeast, 1.9 million to 2.5 million could be the range. The fairgrounds site has already been surveyed, so it would be ready for us to proceed with developing that site at no additional cost other than just inflation for lost time, which is the numbers there. We estimated $100,000 per month just to the project costs and escalation. And site utility costs are already incorporated in the base budget. The Boardman site also, we narrowed it down to as another option, just because it isn't encumbered by most of the obstacles that the mill sites face. There would still be an additional delay to the project in addition to, or beyond what the fairgrounds would have. So it requires surveying that's already been done at the fairground site. So there's the survey, but there's still no reason to suspect any significant obstacles would be uncovered in that survey. It just has to happen. And we of course understand the community sentiment for keeping the new courthouse near the historic one. So that
Kelly?
summarizes it.
Kelly, if I could interject, just for people in the audience and that, so when you say the northwest location, that's for those familiar with it, that's west of where the ag extension and DMV office is, so that'd be up in that little area.
Yes. Yeah.
Historical photographs and that kind of show that wasn't really impacted as much on the north side of the road. The southeast one is, there's a nice big field that's located on the far east, on the south side of the road, where is it Silver Creek? They rent some space for storage stuff, and then there's a nice green field that's there. That from the south side of the road, that's one of the few areas that probably about 80% of it's outside of the 500-year floodplain. And so we wouldn't have to worry about flood mitigation. If we planned it correctly, then just the parking area would be impacted by the 500-year floodplain, which is inconsequential really. And so it just is high enough and taken care of. Also, it's on the north side of where the rail tracks were. And so we're pretty sure that that wasn't impacted by any of the log ponds that were utilized by the mill site in the past. So.
Are you talking about, what's the south side you're talking about?
Yes.
South side right there?
Mhm.
So we didn't look across the highway right there. Both sides are on the north side of the highway, right?
No, they're one side, the north side is considered to be, because the road's kind of weird because it's technically going northwest and then kind of turned west right through that area. The northwest one is on the north side of the road by the ag extension.
Mhm.
The south side is on the other side of the road nearest to heaven.
That's what I thought,
Yes.
and I thought you said Switzer, we're talking about another side on the other side of the road.
No, those are the two sites that we're looking
Got
at, just to minimize environmental impact
Gotcha.
and more or less shovel-ready sites.
Okay,
The port hasn't offered any of the sites, and they've offered, to tear down some of those old storage buildings there. But then again, you're dealing with existing structures, whatever kind of mitigating environmental impact that might have. And so we were looking at some more free and clear areas for the justice. I'm sorry.
well, I have a question, Kelly, maybe Matt too. Either of the mill sites on the last category there, you said that was gonna add an additional 4 months to do? The geotech results impacting ground improvement, get to that section, it's going to add 4 months to the project? And you can't hear me?
Doug or Earl?
Yes,
Uh,
yes. The answer to your question is yes. It will add time.
My second question is, once those studies are done, the exploration and reports, those could impact how the structure is built and the cost, and it could also determine whether or not it's able to be built there at all. Correct? Am I wrong or?
That is correct. There are some other factors, and Matt, I don't know if you have any answers yet on the city being able to provide water to those sites based on some of these numbers or not.
Does the state I'm sorry. Does the state have any specifications on when you do the geotech study like you've already done on the fairgrounds and found it come back clean? On either of the mill sites, does the state have specifications that would, eliminate the site depending on what you find in those explorations? Or is it just, if you have enough money, you could get the deal done?
Yes, anything that can be fixed, et cetera, you could build on it.
Okay,
However, some of these additional costs, we believe are going to be not split. They will be county only costs, in that the state is not going to look at sharing exploration costs on multiple sites.
is, now, at what point are we going to know exactly what the cost to the county is going to be? Is that a while off, or do we have to pick a site first and say, okay, is it gonna be, is the state gonna contribute 50% or 0%? We're gonna shoulder the whole thing, or when would we know that?
Well,
And
certainly
what's keeping us from knowing that now? I
Well,
guess.
certainly we believe these exploration costs will be borne by the county solely at this point in time. From that point forward, if you're talking about remediation of what we find, would the state participate in that? That's an unknown to us.
If I could just add, this is Earl, in speaking with Lori, Koppenrath, who's an expert on this specific type of project. She did mention that if it costs you $1 million to get water to your project, if there's some specifically excessive site development costs, that they may not share 50% of that. And so there's been other projects, I guess, where due to certain aspects of the site that was chosen, there were site specific costs that weren't shared 50-50. So to your point, Commissioner, I don't think until we pick a site and get our building schematic design done and get back in front of them, we probably won't know what their intentions are.
Could you give an example of remediation that might be required? I don't know if you've ever done anything, a site particularly like this, but after you get done with the geotech, what's the possibilities that you might find something that would be, and the remediation that would be required? Can you give an example?
Sure. This is Doug again. If the soil was found to be contaminated in some way, you can over excavate, meaning dig down past the level of contamination, remove all of that soil, and then replace that. But that, based on how much you have to dig out and replace, that can be a very expensive proposal.
And just to point out, with the fairgrounds, we will have to do some excavation. The geotechnical survey did show that there is some secondary fill in there that we'll have to dig out. Whether that's located a place where we can use that to dig out and put the foundation of the building is one thing. But most times you find these sites have been around for hundreds of years, and so there's always some areas that will have to be redone. The question is if we have contamination, and then that gets into a little bit different neck of the woods.
Yeah, our civil
I'm sorry, could you give an example of the type of contamination you're talking about? I know it's environmental, but just give an example, if you've ever done anything on old mill sites, what type of contamination, what might we expect under there?
Well, our civil engineer that did have some experience with a mill site project, and so depending on what you find, will determine if there's I think it's a type 1 or phase 1 or phase 2 study done. And so the cost of doing that study, the time frame, and what the outcome is all unknown because it's based on what you find. But we're talking about many months potentially for a phase 2 study, and just for the cost of the study could be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Commissioner, to your specific question, I think there could be a couple of things. One, if they were using certain chemicals to treat the logs that then got stored and seeped into the soil, we don't know what that may or be. I'm certainly not a logger, if you will. And then we're also aware that back then they changed oil and equipment right on the site wherever they were, and they didn't take the oil to a recycling plant. It was dropped into the ground, so to speak. So those are just a couple examples of what you might find on that site. But again, we don't know. But you asked for an example.
No, that's perfectly what I wanted. I don't expect you to know. I'm just trying to extrapolate out what, what
Understood.
could. Another question I have is, and I may be wrong, but I understood the Port of Morrow did some drilling and testing, trying to get a quote clean write-off from the DEQ. Have you looked at, have they done any work that you know of out there as far as they would duplicate what you're thinking of, or?
If I could address that, we did talk with the port. They have been looking for that report. It was done some time ago. They were not able to find a copy of that submitted to us. They had done some kind of environmental quality kind of surveying, but they have not been able to produce that in my discussions with Mark and Lisa. So,
okay. Thank you. That's all the questions I got.
So one thing, just to point out, particularly on the south side, it's less expensive to get water from the city there than to to create a well for that would be particularly fire suppression and such for a building that size. The wastewater is more expensive to hook to the city, and that would be possibly one of those questions where if the state says, well, we'll share half of the on-site wastewater system, county's gonna have to pick up the full cost of the the difference in the cost for connecting to the city, which would be $235,000 or so. The other thing is we do have interest by the port to meet with the fairgrounds and the rodeo about possibly moving the fairgrounds there. This is very preliminary, but would be quite the change for the mill site. Put the fairgrounds on one side, still allow some industrial development along the west side, where Coyle and kids or chicks are. But that is a consideration. And if we could work out with the mill, with the port and with the city partner about possibly getting that infrastructure in place, there might be some good collaboration and impact for county facilities and the development of that stuff.
Okay. Matt, I've done my questions. I don't know if these guys are ready to sweat you carry on, or how do you want to go with this report?
Well, we're looking for direction.
So, questions on, I look at the chart, environmental needs, 300,000, then geotechnical needs, 200,000. So is that, add them together in that $600,000 or the 300,000 that we spoke?
Doug and Earl, are we just looking at, that's not 300, 300, 300, 300 for those bottom 4 rows? That's just the impact of the delay in time, is the way I read it.
Yeah. What we're trying to do is identify the cost categories that we know will add cost. We don't know what the environmental cost impact will be, but we do know it'll take time. Same with geotechnical. So yes, so in this environment, professional estimators are often recommending a 5% construction cost contingency, which on a project of this size, we think might mean about $100,000 per month, as it takes us, further time to pick a site and get it designed.
That's just additional expected cost of construction and not taking into account what the actual testing would cost.
Yeah, the testing, Do you have any ballpark on the environmental and geotechnical actual cost of those?
I don't.
Are you saying on the cost for testing?
Yes.
So, what we paid for geotechnical testing of the fairground site already, I think was something in the neighborhood of $10,000 ish. I'll say 10 to 20. It's been some time, but specifically the north site, because we know there's fill material there, undocumented fill. If we began looking for the ideal spot, we could be digging, moving, because we were running into, depths of undocumented fill that prove problematic. So it's hard to know what the time frame or the cost of doing the geotechnical exploration would be on the north site specifically. The south site appears easier because it looks like it's flat ground, but again, we're not certain what that would be. And then the environmental impact is really a wild card for both sites. So we don't have a good idea on the cost or the duration of time. It just depends what they find.
So what do you have a proposed motion? You have two of them. Kind of summarize what we're gunning for here. Okay, two possible motions. One is move to approve staff proceeding with preparing presentations for specific locations for final determination. And those presentations you're talking about would be to the public, correct?
You had offered saying before we make a final decision, you wanted to get input from the public.
Right.
And so if you wanted to finalize on two sites, present and get feedback, that's something that we could do.
Okay, and then the second motion would be moved to hold a public meeting on May 13th or 14th to engage with the public on final determination of new circuit court location. So that's kind of more of the same thing, two sites, and put everything out there we know and get public input.
Yes.
Kind of like, okay,
If I could make a recommendation to the board, I think there's, the fairgrounds works, but it has issues. Particularly with the parking for the fairgrounds. The Kinzu Mill site south, the southeast one, pretty low fill, beautiful location. If we don't have the environmental impacts, it could work. The one thing I would want to do, ask Justin if we would have Judge Hill or a representative from the state judge board to come and just give their thumbs up on that in the next week or so. So we hate to have them come and say, no, we don't like the site after we do a bunch of environmental.
well, can I interject on? Judge Hill didn't come in, I mean, he knew about this site and talked to us many times about the different sites. But it was actually, what's her name? The Chief Justice of Oregon. She came here with her group. And I took them up there and they looked at that and she gave her some thumbs up. So who was above Judge Hill was the one that eventually came and personally inspected that. So I don't know if we need to do, if that would be necessary to do that again, or.
I think, right now, one of the main issues might be reaching out. I'm not sure the contact person is, not Judge Hill, but the, contact with the state for that, to share the funding, right? And this idea, whatever we do, we want to get as much compensation back from the state as possible, right? It seems like that's the main, one of the goals, to make it as much as possible. I'd almost want to verify with them, verifying that they don't have an issue with any locations. I know that the Chief Justice said anywhere in Morrow County in her letter, didn't mind, but try and touch somebody, reach out to somebody to see if that's still correct, if they don't have an issue. I think there's two parts. One is location, we've talked about as one issue, like, oh, is there any issue with any location? They may just say no. And the other is okay, well, this location has a higher, cost more to build on. Is the state willing to pay their share still of this location? They may say, oh, yeah, Hillside's fine, but because you have this other option, we don't want to spend any additional money to make that work. I'm not sure what that is.
Oh, legislative committee, because that's who we testify. Are they gonna, is the justice that's gonna have to, because they would have to allocate some more money. Not they, but the legislature would have to allocate more money if we're if they're gonna increase, if we're gonna increase our construction cost and ask them to contribute 50%, then they're gonna have to go allocate more money, the legislature, right?
Yes, and this is where, I have had discussions with Greg, Smith. He says if the mill site requires additional money, he's willing to go to bat, for that additional money. And we want to get that kind of ballpark figure set up by this fall, so he could take it into the next session.
No, and I don't need to just throw, I like to get, try to get as many of the unknowns out of the way as possible, especially since we're being asked to contribute potentially more money, but also every delay is gonna cost us money.
Potentially.
Yeah, and so it's, I like, you don't wanna spend money and start moving down a path where you waited a month, or 3 months, $300,000, and the legislature says, no, we're not gonna pay more. And we've done the geotech things and all this, and the justice is saying, we don't want it there. See, I like to get these kind of things, at least, before you start spending a lot of money and spending a lot of time. That's my thought, about it. Not that you're trying to write off one of the sites, it's just get an idea, at some point, what kind of cost you're looking at, because when you take this to the public, you should be able to tell them, is it 5 million? Is it 3 million? It's their money. So it has to weigh into your presentation of the two sites before, to me. So it doesn't sound like that's doable though. We're not gonna know what it's gonna cost the county. It might be, well, we get halfway into it and I'll come back and say, that's gonna cost you another, mill or whatever, that's possible. As long as that's myself, I don't know about you guys, but as long as I know that's a possibility, that's fine, because that's what I'll tell people. We don't know. It could cost $1 million, could cost more. That's all. I'd say, look at the unknowns and say, this is an unknown, this is an unknown, this is an unknown. When we do the presentation, so we're not coming back later and everybody's, shocked. The project's gonna cost X million more or whatever. Does that make sense?
Everybody wants the Cadillac until the little bill comes in.
I mean, the fairground site has very few unknowns.
Yes.
It's already had the
We've already
deal
put
on
the
there.
money in there.
Yeah.
We know what's there.
Water,
The
sewer.
biggest impact is, the immediate residential surroundings and the impact on the parking with fair, which.
Understood. We've been hearing this from the get-go, this is something we know personal, upfront and personal.
So
What the
do we
issue
have
was.
options on parking that we can explore? We explored all of those options. I know there was some options that were out there, but I don't know that we explored them all.
One of the options is to excavate some more of the hill on the other side of the creek to allow rigs to park there a little bit more. We've been in contact with the school about the school, the bus barn area. They don't have plans to move it. They'd love to move it, but we'd have to help facilitate a solution for them. And so that's not an easy, quick answer. The land lease, there's been rumblings that could be reconsidered, but I have nothing of a surety which I could say that's the solution. So we still have the parking issues. The rodeo and the fairgrounds have said, hey, we'll work through it. And I think there's possibilities and some ingenuity and creative thinking could help, but it's not gonna be a Eric, we got a 2 acre lot suddenly out of thin air that you can park. It would be figuring things out. And appreciate, particularly the rodeo board saying, we're willing to work with you and we wanna make this work. So a couple things that we can do is we have this pulled together, we've got some impacts, so we can go to either the state, we can go to the state to determine funding. We can reach out to to Judge Hill or the Chief Justice and get their feedback on the alternate site. And we can bring it back to the commission, and whether we have a public hearing or have a special session with the commission where it's a public hearing and we do a presentation, have public input, and the third thing actually I wanted to say is contact Greg Smith, make sure he still has that commitment to help out if it does cost more, and then have another one, a meeting on the 15th in order to allow you all to hear from the public, hear the update of your current information, and give us a decision so we don't lose a whole another month.
Well, I know what I wanna do. I wanna pick 2 sites, the south and the fairground. And I want you to track at the same time our unknowns.
Okay.
And I wanna have the public meeting. And if we go into the public meeting with unknowns, see, all I wanna do is just tell the public, be honest with them, these are unknowns.
Yeah.
We don't know. That's all I want. You know, like they've shown that they wanna be involved with this process. And they're very, very upset about the way it was done, that they feel they haven't gotten enough input. We all know that, right to our faces, you know, very angrily, and, we all know what's going on with the recall and everything, and this is a big part of it. So I think just have the public meeting and tell the people, these are the unknowns. We do not know what this site here is gonna cost. What do you want? Want us to spend our, let's get some buy-in, from everybody else.
Yeah.
That's what I would.
Is this gonna be a single location meeting, or are we gonna do 2 meetings, or, because this is everybody's money, it's not just Hefner's money, if we're talking about putting it in the county, it's everybody's money.
It is, and that I would take your lead on this. If you wanted to do a north and south meeting, if you just wanted to make it so it's available via Zoom, whatever direction you'd like to do. If you wanted to do 2 sessions on the 15th, since we'll be up here again, have one in the afternoon and then come down here and do one in the evening, we can do that.
I'd like to hear input from the whole county.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of rumblings about, I've talked to a lot of people in the north end that don't particularly care what it's at. It's not like they're trying to get it to be moved, and I just kind of want that to be an open public meeting.
Of course.
Well, does that mean we add the third site?
Well, it depends on feedback of the meetings.
Yeah, I think that the site choices should be made after the public meetings, if we can.
Well, if they're gonna want, if we're gonna, so but we have to provide them information on the site. We can't just say, okay, so tell us what site you want. Well, what sites you got in mind? What are the specifics?
So I think we already had some that appreciate, for just water and sewer, the low end is $2 to $3 million. It's the estimate for water and sewer. The other is at least $300,000 plus, whatever the cost of the testing is. And then whatever that can of worms opens up. So that's the kind of the unknown there, but we're looking at 2.3 to 3.3, let's be realistic, it's gonna be $2.5 to $3.5 million more for a mill site building. At a minimum, that's your starting point,
That's what
before the unknown sound.
we're kind of zeroing in on. But if you hold a public meeting in the other parts of the county, they're gonna say, well, what are your proposed sites? What are the proposed costs? How many sites, because this is what he's asking,
So
How many sites are we going to present at the public meeting?
so the fairgrounds, the Kinsview South, because probably, you know, deputy municipal, probably less, issues there, maybe the county rooms isn't there, hurdles. And then the Portland site, because that is,
That's what I wanted to give them direction.
because, you know, and make sure that everybody knows that, you know, even in the best case scenario, if we're looking at $2.5 to $3.5 million, the county's gonna be on the hook for 1.25 or $1.75 million. Even if you get the state to pay half of it, you know. It's $1.5 million to $2 million more than the county's gonna have to come up with. And we heard many times that, you know, the county needs to be good stewards, taxpayer dollars, be fiscally responsible. You know, then they're complaining already, spending $25 million on it. And now we're gonna increase it right now. To a $4 million responsible.
No, like, you know, these, like the. I wanna, you know, if we're gonna expand the hearings to the whole county. I think we need to have this kind of things plain, simple, and we need to have the, if you can categorize the unknowns. Okay? And so we're clear to people. You know, have a category for unknown costs, you know, whatever, you know. You can only do what you can do, you know, just like the architects have said, you know, there's time limits, you know, money limits, all these things that before the public hearings is do what you can do. And just so we're open to the public. This is the information we're at. You know, okay, here it is, people. Now you tell us, you have this exact same information that we have. Now you tell us what your thoughts are. That's what it's your money.
Yeah, so Doug, Earl, and Lisa, is this, from your side, is this something we could prepare for the 15th, or should we look to give us an additional week and get on the 22nd, just so we can have all our ducks in the road and taken care of more appropriately?
Matt, can you outline exactly what you want for the 15th? Are we losing one of these sites? Are we presenting as is?
We lose the north side. We lose the Kinsview Mill site north.
Okay. So in addition to the information on this chart, what else would you like us to be able to share or show at a community meeting?
I think we finesse a little bit this chart, just a little bit, showing the actual costs on the geotechnical, the environmental, if we can do something at least on the phase 1 that would need to be done. The other thing is we would need to be calling the state on funding, the courts on location, and Greg Smith on commitment for additional funding and support if that's necessary.
No. You know, are they the ones that track down whether what the state will or won't pay, or is that on you or us?
It's between us. DLR has experience with these, building these facilities. They know the contacts much better than I am.
No, yeah, I understood. So, yeah.
So it would be design team and the county staff.
Yeah, and that's what, you know, we were just talking about unknowns, you know. If they could be aware of, just have, you know, if something's unknown, guys, let us know. That's all I want. Just like you put question marks or dollar signs down there at the bottom, because you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So just tell us that. That's all. But get as much as you can without, you know, in the time period we're talking about. Much information and data together as you can, known and unknown, to present to the public when we have these open sessions, so that they have the same information that we have. That's good.
Matt, we could certainly reach out to OJD, David Moon, you know, some of those others. I don't know that we'll get a definitive answer. I think they've indicated in the past that projects have extended their grant past the timeline and or have gone back to the legislature and have gotten, some sort of increase. But I don't know that he can say with any kind of finality that your project will get more money. So I think it'll still end up being a question mark, but we can certainly ask the flavor, so to speak, with a question.
That's fine, goes to the unknown column.
Okay.
Stick it in there now, that's what I'm asking, that's what I
Got it.
want. I don't expect you, to, and I don't want you guessing, so, anyway, myself, I don't know you guys, I don't wanna speak for you guys, because that's.
So just reiterate, is the 15th reasonable, or should we give ourselves another week to go to the 22nd? I'm asking that.
Kelly, you want to jump in? 15th, good by me.
Go ahead, you're unmuted,
Yeah.
Kelly.
Sorry, I muted and then I couldn't. Yeah, let's make that work. It's in our best interest and everyone's best interest here for us to expedite. So we will make that work.
So what I would propose then is an afternoon hearing in Oregon, and then we come down here, do more or less an evening meeting in Hefner. We can get that posted out next week in the Gazette. So.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions on that subject, you guys? Do we need a motion to this effect, or,
I think I have the direction.
just wanna make sure we all are clear.
Yes.
I like being clear.
So we will proceed with the 3 sites. We're dropping the north site. We'll have the meeting in Oregon in the afternoon of the 15th, a meeting in Hefner the afternoon or the evening of the 15th. And so the Oregon will be more of just a public hearing, presentation, public hearing. The Hefner one might be public hearing, presentation, and maybe a decision. So we'll list that one as a special session.
Okay, and we'll take public input, just everything else, yes, okay. One thing are you gonna make up a PowerPoint? Like, the PowerPoint you make up are pretty good. And you'll have one that you can show the people.
Oh, yes, we're gonna make it pretty.
I like to be clear, because they are good what you do, you've done for the ASA and everything. And in my opinion, they help a lot.
And we'll get those, and of course, we'll have it posted a day or so, of course, we can go through, we'll do the presentation, allow public comment, and then if there's questions the commission would like us to address on that, and then you can weigh in on how that's impacted things. Okay. All right.
Okay, let's move on to 5C, this public compliance update. Now, there's
Yes, let me just pull this up real quick. My apologies. So, at the beginning of April, we were contacted by ODOT's compliance group, stating that a compliance audit that was performed in 2023 and a later drug and alcohol compliance study that was done in September of 23 in regards to the transit system was that the county was still not in compliance with it, that they had complied with a couple of the items, but that they were concerned about the status of the compliance issues on this. This is specifically in relation to the STIF grant funding that we received, which is pretty much how we fund the transit system. Several of these were anything from minor things, maintenance logs, to larger items, civil rights issues like ADA compliance and more or less ADA policy compliance. As we reached out and I played phone tag a little bit, they requested that a commissioner sit in with with the meeting, on the compliance. Commissioner Weinholz, helped out on that. And we had a meeting last Friday, to discuss with compliance officials. At that point, there was, 13 articles on the, 13 articles on, the compliance issue that we were in the report set out. Only 3 of those have been closed out. In talking with them, and with, Ben Tucker, our transit manager, we have committed and they provided a 30-day extension for us to come into full compliance on all of these. The commission has the reports in hand. And I met with Ben yesterday as follow-up, and we have submitted all but one of the items at this point since last Friday. There are several of them that are still under review. One of them will require an action by the commission, which we'll try to have in place before you by May 15th. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of excuses. They just weren't done. And with the pressure to get the fixed routes going with the grant expectations there, Ben flat out said this was slid in the back burner. I do know that Angie Jones, our direct contact for ODOT compliance, said that most of these issues were predated Ben, and he's been fairly good and responsive with her, but they need to come into compliance. And so we're working through those, and I'm meeting with Ben on a weekly basis. I think the transition on the transit manager, and the transition of the county administrator helped compound these. I'm giving the report because in essence, the buck stops here. And I did not follow up on the compliance reports as well. And so we're looking at this one and making it a high priority to get us into play. They are holding our current stiff payment of $114,000 until we get the quarterly report, which was submitted last Friday. And we're awaiting confirmation on that. The reason why I bring this up is partly because of the compliance requirement. They asked that all the commissioners be known and have copies of those reports so that so it's not a surprise on any issues. This is unfortunately a black eye on our operations. We've just gotten our fixed routes going. That's a great thing, and a little bit of growing pains, but we are committed to come into full compliance by the end of May. And if there's anything that runs over that, we will be reporting to the Board of Commissioners and letting them know what the course of action would be from there. So with that, I'd like to answer any questions the commissioners might have, and let you know we're just committed to full compliance for our STIF funding.
Sounds like you're getting a handle on it. I'm glad.
We
They called me.
We will.
They called me, you know.
Yeah, I think you got the first call.
Yeah, I did.
And then,
Well, no, he told me it was, I got one of the many last year in the last call. They had kind of run out their string when they told me, they called me first.
yeah,
Just to be upfront about it, you know. But no, I mean, and I understand what you're saying about the transition, I completely get it, you know. But I'm really glad now that you're getting a handle on it, sounds like you do. I have complete confidence that you're gonna take care of it.
we do not with the transit, we do have a couple other action plans for grant compliance. I haven't really touched those in light of this one. I will be reviewing all of those just to make sure we're getting away on that. I know from the financial side, Kevin's been great at getting the information there. And quite frankly, those items that we submitted on finance were done very quickly. But for some reason, they're still reviewing them, shows that they don't show as being closed out. So some of this looks like, oh, it's horrible, we're totally out of compliance. And it's like, no, this has been waiting for other groups of the state to review, but we'll get our stuff taken care of so we can point fingers somewhere other than at us. So I'm I'm happy to get to that point, and I'll be reviewing the other action plans in the near future.
Good, I like the way you know the process, so, we don't have to take all the hits, it's not us, so.
Yeah.
I like that.
No, and this one, you've authorized it, you've set it in motion, this is where I need to be there to make sure we're in compliance.
Any questions on it? Yeah, okay. All right, concludes administration reports. Let's move on to business item, 5A, our compensation policy update.
I got one question,
Yeah.
sorry, so on Friday, I moved the public hearing for the land use hearing down to the bottom because we didn't have a lot of items.
Mhm.
And then more items added on Monday morning. The public notice was for 10 AM, should we move the public hearing or just continue with it?
They just moved the public hearing, I don't think, there's no reason. Was there any reason anybody sees not to have a public hearing?
I
I don't
believe,
take it right now.
I believe the parties are here, so it'd be nice to.
That's all, yeah, it's not fair then. Unless it. I think the business item can be, edited down. All right, okay. That's great. Okay, so, Daisy,
Good morning, commissioners. Thank you
good morning.
for your time. We can do a quick rundown of the high-level overview of this land use hearing, if that's okay.
So-
with you.
Don't need to do it.
Yeah,
Okay, we'll
I'll,
do that.
I'll open the public hearing and then we'll ask you for your staff.
Thank you.
Okay, because then, yeah,
Well, before you do that, I will announce that, I'm on the board of directors from Utah Electric, Utah Electric's in the report is being provided services.
okay,
A discussion of.
okay. You got that in the record, Valerie, that is recusing technically.
David would ask you to, don't ask. It's just every time.
It's standard, I get a ask them at board meetings. People back at me. But he gives me that look.
I'll miss it.
How long does it take, man? How many years? Okay, so, you call for abstentions or conflict of interest, we got that taken care of. Okay, this doesn't have, normally shouldn't have a statement exactly what this hearing is. This is the procedure to hold it, but
Okay,
I need a statement about,
Yeah, usually it's the beginning part of the calling the public hearing for land use hearing to adopt
Yeah.
all the exceptions and the initial meeting.
yeah, because we kind of jumped into this without
Yeah.
specifying what this hearing is about. There we go, okay. So, I'll now open the hearing for AC 153-24 passage solar goal 3 exception. One energy applicant goal exception for the construction and operation of 120 megawatt solar photovoltaic energy. I probably watched that, you guys are gonna smile. Energy generation facility within the exclusive farm EFU zone. The property is located plus or minus 17 miles southeast of Hermiston and plus minus 22 miles southeast of Boardman, tax lot 1200 of assessor's map 03N27, tax lot 100 of assessor's map 02N27. Okay, so with that, we open the hearing, and we're gonna go ahead and then we're gonna start with the staff report from Daisy, and then we'll talk about the public testimony. Okay,
Thank you. Good
Yeah.
morning, commissioners. Yeah, so this is an ordinance to allow a goal 3 exception. That would affect 753 acres of EFU land for the micrositing boundary, including 152.9 acres of what's classified as high value farmland for the construction operation of 120 megawatt solar photovoltaic energy generating facility. The state law requires that we adopt a goal exception, which is a comprehensive plan amendment, for any solar facilities on EFU land that affect more than 12 acres of high value farmland or 20 acres of arable land. In this case, the applicant can speak a little bit more to their proposal, but they have a really interesting plan to, rather than mitigating the impacts to removing the full 750 plus acres of land from agricultural use, they're integrating agricultural use through a sheep grazing program. And so Cameron Krebs with Krebs grazing.
Solar grazing.
Solar grazing is here as well. So the applicant and Cameron will speak to the way that they're integrating that agricultural use into the broader energy generating use. So it's a really interesting program, and we're excited to hear more about it. That's all I have. If you guys have any questions for me.
Does anybody have any questions for staff? I guess the one question I have, I don't know, it might be in here. Did the planning commission, what was the vote to approve this?
It was unanimous.
Okay, that's what, I know it's in here.
Yeah, and it was done as a coordinated conditional use permit and goal exception. So they recommended the goal exception portion of it and approved the conditional use permit portion of it with condition.
Okay. Do you guys want to hear a report on the mitigation, or do you want to wait until we have public testimony, or do you not want on the sheep? Sounds interesting.
You can't ask them.
I appreciate, I know you did that just for me.
I have to.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Didn't the chair ask how long it's gonna take before it gets used to it?
Ronnie. What's your thoughts? You want to hear, just call for testimony, and I'd kind of like to hear about it.
Yeah, I'd like to hear about the
Yeah,
mitigation.
okay, we'll do it under when we ask for testimony then. Okay. So any questions,
No, I think so.
any questions for staff before we call them? So, okay. With that, we'll open it up to public testimony, and testimony evidence must be directed toward the applicable substantive criteria, failure to originate the petition, specificity to afford board commissioners and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue, precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals, states on that issue. Interested parties have the right to request extension continuance, for the right to have the record remain open for 7 days. Individuals testifying need to state their full name and address for the record, as well as sign in. And gives the ORS 197-7635, 197-7963, 197-7636. So now first I will call for any proponents of this application. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this? Yeah. Just come on up, just state your name and who you're affiliated with. And
I'm Tanner Gillespie. Address is 2003 Western Avenue, Seattle, Washington, 98121.
I'm Nathan Stotler, also the same address.
and then you can just tell us whatever you want about the project, or whatever the application project, whatever you feel like.
Great. Is the presentation available?
The same as
And we're able to unmute a link, so we're in
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, you're unmuted, Elaine.
Oh, hi, thank you. Are you able to turn on my video to participate? And if not, that's okay, but I'm still having trouble with that part too.
We're about to share, or we're gonna do it.
You should be able to start your video now, Elaine.
You can share. Here she is.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
We have a link here. Elaine, would you be able to pull up the presentation and share your screen? We don't have it loaded up on this side.
Sure, hold on just a minute.
Sorry about this, y'all.
Elaine is with same organization as you guys, is that right?
She is our legal counsel, outside legal counsel with One Energy.
Just so for the record, you want to tell me who's speaking to.
It doesn't look like I have authority to share screen on my side.
Try it one more time, Elaine.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Can you see that?
Sure can.
Yep.
That
Looks
good?
like it might just be your half screen, Elaine, but yeah, there we go. Perfect.
There we go.
Okay, great.
Okay. Great, thanks for having us, commissioners. Our team is gonna be presenting Passage Solar and a request for a goal 3 exception today. If you could jump to the next slide, Elaine. So I'll give a quick little introduction about our company, One Energy, and then I'll jump into the project details. The next slide, please. So a little bit about our company. Our company is based in Seattle. We're an independent developer focusing on utility scale energy. We were founded in 2009. We have offices all across the country in Seattle, Portland, Boulder, Madison, Wisconsin, and Washington, DC. And I actually sit in our Boulder office in Colorado. Our projects include community solar projects, distributed generation projects, as well as large scale projects such as Passage Solar, which we're going to speak to today. Our company has over 1.2 gigawatts of completed projects across 120 distinct sites. And we've also built or are in the process of constructing over 270 megawatts across 47 different projects. And here today is Nathan Stotler, our Associate Director of Development, myself, Tanner Gillespie, Manager of Development, and Erin Lynch isn't here today, but she supports this project as an associate in development. If you jump to the next slide. Great. So a little bit about solar siting. Our current pipeline across our national pipeline includes 4,000 megawatts with over 619 megawatts located within the state of Oregon across 4 different sites. Our siting strategy at One Energy is focused carefully on selecting sites that are low impact and high benefit to the landowners, as well as the community in which they are sited. And solar is a great product for Oregon. One, because Oregon is a national leader in clean energy targets. 2, solar is compatible with agriculture and it also supports farmers by diversifying their income. 3, solar is also non-permanent. It allows the land to be restored at the end of its useful life. And lastly, solar is quiet, it's emissions free, and it's low maintenance. And next slide, please. So previously, we have some experience with Morrow County, 2 different projects, full permitted in 2018 in Morrow County. One is called Power Road Solar and Harp Solar. You can see it located on the map above. And just briefly, I'll breeze through this, some basic components of solar facilities. So our projects utilize photovoltaic panels, which are made of crystalline silicon cells that convert sunlight to electricity. And the photovoltaic panels include anti-reflective coatings, which basically reduces the amount of glare that comes off the panels and reduces energy loss from reflection. The other components include racking systems, including in the steel rack systems are supported by steel posts that are pushed into the ground. And on top of those racking systems, we have a tracking system that tracks the sun throughout the day from east to west to get maximum output of energy. And the inverters convert solar energy into a form of electricity that the grid can use. Each inverter is coupled with a medium voltage step-up transformer that basically steps up the voltage from the solar panels, and then it moves to an interconnection infrastructure, which basically has another step-up transformer, and that step-up transformer moves the voltage further up to the utility voltage, so we can interconnect onto the grid. Other basic components include fencing and roadways. So our projects also have security fencing around the perimeters, typically made of welded wire mesh, similar to game fencing you would see. We also have gravel access roads used for maintenance vehicles and emergency access. Next slide. And the last component I want to touch on is the battery energy storage system. So passive solar also includes an optional battery energy storage system, which allows the project to store energy during the day and discharge that energy in the evening hours. And this allows us to smooth out that power curve throughout the day, and have additional capacity on the project. And next slide. So I'm gonna jump into the actual project details and run through this. Can you go to the next slide, please? Here we have a quick overview map, kind of identifying where we're located. So we're about 17 miles southwest of Hermiston. And the project would interconnect to Umatilla Electric Cooperative's Oregon Trail substation. We can jump to the next slide. So a quick site overview and summary. Location there, 17 miles southwest of Hermiston. Our landowners, this is all privately owned land with Tim and Shannon Rust. We have site control on the land for a long-term land lease. We signed that back in 2023. The zoning is EFU, exclusive farm use. Current land use is cultivated dry land crops with agricultural operations. Our interconnection is through UEC, Umatilla Electric Co-op, as well as EPA, the Bonneville Power Administration. Our system size is 120 megawatts, and then we also have an optional 120 megawatt battery storage. The type is called single axis ground mounted. So it's ground mounted, piled into the ground, and then the tracking system allows us to track the sun throughout the day. Our projected annual output from the project is about 260 megawatt hours per year. So that's about enough power to power about 22,000 average homes. And then our estimated online date at the very earliest is going to be Q4 of 2025. So the very end of 2025. So quick site overview. This site was selected based on a robust alternatives analysis. We looked across the entire county, Morrow County. We focused on areas of high solar resource, the proximity to local transmission infrastructure where we could move our electrical power onto the grid. We looked at flat topography. We looked at unirrigated lands, as well as limiting our impacts to any nearby neighbors. We can jump to the next slide. So here are some general photos from the site. These photos were taken last year. So you can see this is obviously all cultivated land. It's all used for dry land wheat. And area definitions. So our permit kind of breaks down our area into three separate distinct areas. This includes our project tract. Project tract includes parcels in which our project is actually located within. So we have two different parcels that we overlap with. You can see that in the white outlines. The project area extent is the current area where we have an ability to microsite that project. That's the area of impact where we have surveyed, and you can see that in red on the map on the left-hand side there. And so within that boundary, we can microsite the project, the final facility within that project area extent. And the project area is basically that final maximum footprint of the project within the project area extent. So you survey an area and it gets shrunken down at each step, basically. So a quick overview of our project area extent. Project area extent includes one of this, basically our survey area for where we conducted all of our environmental surveys to date. Within that project area extent, there's no critical high value habitat. There's no impacts to irrigated soils. There's no impacts to class 1 or class 2 soils. There's minimal impact to high value farmland. There's no impacts to wetlands or floodplains. And current agricultural uses will continue on the surrounding lands. The map here on the left-hand side shows our habitat categories. So based off our wildlife surveys and habitat surveys, you can see all the areas that we will be developing are going to be focused on the category 6 habitat, which is the lowest value. You can jump to the next slide, please. So a quick overview of our due diligence to date. So this table kind of outlines everything we've done to date based on environmental surveys as well as agency consultations. So to date, we've completed a phase 1 environmental site assessment. We've completed ALTA surveys and topographic surveys, wetland surveys, wildlife surveys, and cultural surveys. The wetland surveys have been sent and shared with Department of State Lands. Our wildlife surveys have been sent and shared, and also we've been in consultations with ODFW during the process and have conducted those surveys with ODFW's recommendations. Cultural surveys were conducted with some of the tribal members out at site, and they are completed. A soils analysis was completed, a glare analysis was also completed. We've also reached out and did consultations with the FAA to do an FAA analysis. And we're currently in consultations with the Oregon Department of Transportation, County Noxious Weed Board, as well as the fire marshal. But we have been in discussions with all these agencies. Can you jump to the next slide, please? So a quick overview of the high value farmland. High value farmland has many different definitions under the Oregon revised statutes. But based off our soils analysis, there are basically 3 definitions of high value farmland, which are applicable to passive solar. The first definition includes prime, unique, class 1 or class 2 soils. There are none of these within the project area, so this does not apply. The second definition of high value farmland includes areas known as EFU, exclusive farm use, and that have a water right or are located within a specific water district. Our project area does not have any water use permits and is not located within an irrigation or improvement district. The third definition of high value farmland includes areas identified under the American viticultural areas. Under this definition, we do have high value farmland, which is 153 acres within our project area. And jump to the next slide, please. I'll let Elaine jump in here.
Great, thanks, Tanner. For the record, my name is Elaine Albridge. I'm outside permitting counsel with Davis Wright Tremaine for One Energy. I'm here to talk a bit about the Goal 3 exception request that's before you today. We appeared before the Planning Commission to present the Goal 3 exception request, and the Planning Commission, after full hearing and deliberations, recommended approval of the Goal 3 exception for your consideration. So what we are requesting here today is the Goal 3 exception for up to 739 acres of arable land to facilitate the siting of this project. The Goal 3 exception is triggered because we will impact more than 12 acres of high value farmland within that, the ADA, as Tanner described on the last slide, and then more than 20 acres of arable soils, which constitutes cultivated land. In the record before you, we provided an analysis of the 4-part test that's required for a Goal 3 exception. There are 4 prongs of this test. 1, reasons have to justify an exception. 2, areas not requiring an exception can accommodate the project, cannot accommodate the project, sorry. 3, the SE consequences have been considered and are not significantly more adverse than if the project was sited elsewhere on EFU land. And 4, the proposed use is compatible with adjacent uses. We've demonstrated through the materials and our application on the record that we satisfy each of these prongs of this test. We provided reasons in the application that staff recommended to the Planning Commission, and now that the Planning Commission has recommended to you. You know, in part, this project is a rural and industrial facility under DLCD's rules that is locationally dependent, and that's tied on the specific site conditions and the proximity to UEC's substation with capacity. The second prong requires us to perform an alternatives analysis. That's, Tanner mentioned that earlier. The alternatives analysis was robust in that it had different siting factors that had to be considered. It looked at areas across the county, and that is ultimately how One Energy picked this site that we are proposing for the Goal 3 exception. We can answer more questions if you have them about the alternatives analysis. Otherwise, I'll just direct you to the alternatives analysis and staff's findings in the record. We did a robust EC analysis and looking at potential impacts and consequences from environmental, economic, social, and energy to demonstrate that this project site is not significantly more adverse than if we were sited elsewhere. There's been considerable consultation, as Tanner mentioned, and any potential impacts have been minimized. with number 4, the proposed use is compatible with adjacent uses. No one to date on the record has raised any concerns about the proposed project. As it was discussed earlier, once constructed, this project is fairly benign and non-invasive. And so operations on adjacent lands, the ongoing farm uses should just continue as they are now. A little bit more detail about the reasons to justify the exception, just pointing you to the locations in the record where there are findings in support of these reasons. So looking to the county's own adopted comprehensive plan that supports justification of reasons for the exception, as well as the reason provided under DLCD's rules for the rural industrial use. Here, the alternatives analysis, it's attachment R in the record. I mentioned the citing criteria, there was 9 of them. There was one actually alternative site identified, but it was once further evaluated, it was disqualified as not being reasonable. And then again, just directing you to the record of where the EC analysis and compatibility is. So I will transition here because I think what we want to hear more about is the proposed grazing program for this project. It's our position that reasons warrant this requested goal 3 exception, and we will not result in significant adverse impacts to the EC resources. And with the proposed implementation of the proposed grazing program, that no agricultural mitigation is necessary. So I'll turn that back over to the team in person to talk more about that.
Great, thanks, Lane. So minimization of impacts to agricultural land. I'm just going to talk on the grazing and minimization of the impacts. So one energy focuses on minimizing these impacts to agricultural land through one, the siting analysis and working directly with landowners to identify least impactful lands. Our landowners have submitted a letter of support, included with our permit as attachment D. One Energy has been working towards dual use sites across the country and is constantly looking for new and innovative ways to incorporate agricultural uses and benefits to our projects. And Passage Solar is one of those projects. We plan to implement a grazing program with a local grazer as part of our vegetation management plan. You can jump to the next. So solar and agriculture. Solar grazing keeps land in agricultural use by, instead of removing agricultural production to make way for energy production, solar grazing actually allows the land to grow agricultural products while also being able to produce electricity. It enables grazing of solar facilities such as Passage Solar. We allow agricultural producers to continue using the land and they generate income. We also increase opportunity for local sheep producers to access quality grazing land to grow their operations. In order to make this all work, we'll be implementing some early stage design plans to include this site as a successful site for grazing. Some of these considerations include planting an appropriate pasture mix with grass and legumes, specifically selected for the sheep. As well as designing the site to incorporate these designs, we need to accommodate grazing. So we look at wire management, secure fencing, and making sure we have adequate access for the grazers and the sheep. Additionally, the grazing program would not only directly benefit the grazer, but it also supports the project itself by benefiting the project to reduce herbicide applications, reduce emissions from mechanical equipment, and also improve soils through rotational grazing practices. As mentioned, our grazing partner is here today and can answer some questions if you have any. And jump to the next slide. And Elaine, I'll pull you back into this slide.
Okay. So as we mentioned, the Planning Commission approved the corresponding conditional use permit that would allow the construction and operation of the solar project subject to the board's approval of the requested goal 3 exception. So we just wanted to spend a little bit of time touching on the conditional use permit that's related to the goal 3 and the conditions within it, just to address how we are managing for these items. So we have conditions in the conditional use permit that address the wildlife habitat, re-veg, and weed control. We also have conditions to assure there's no impacts to cultural resources and that there's ongoing coordination with the tribe. We anticipate entering into a confidential mitigation agreement. That's something that discussions are in process. We dealt with decommissioning before the Planning Commission, and that resulted in condition 10. This was an item of discussion before the Planning Commission, and we worked with staff in the Planning Commission to come up with language that ensures that the applicant will provide 100% financial assurance of the cost to decommission the project at year 10, measured from the date of COD. We also addressed erosion control and access and traffic. We will be entering into a road use agreement with the county, and I've been in conversations with the county on that. And then with respect to erosion control, we'll be dealing with DEQ and the NPDS 1200C permit. One item we didn't have on here that we had been in discussions with, and it's presented to you in staff's recommendations, is a condition related to implementation of the re-veg and weed control plan. That's the plan that essentially is the mechanism for ensuring the success of the sheep grazing program. So we worked with the Planning Commission and staff to devise language in the condition that requires that the sheep grazing meets certain success criteria that will be developed in the final weed management plan. And it gives the county a bit of a hook for enforcement to ensure that the program continues to meet those success criteria and is really, resulting in the benefits that we anticipate that it will, that Tanner just talked about on the earlier slide. If there's any questions, I'll turn it back to Tanner.
So, a couple more slides here is going over the site, and we'll talk about preliminary site layout. So we've submitted a preliminary site layout along with our permit and Goal 3 exception request. However, the exact location of the equipment, of the final equipment, are subject to change once we do further engineering studies, such as geotechnical work. However, the maximum footprint of the project would not exceed the 739 acres. Access to the project will also be from an existing private access from south that intersects Highway 207. And additionally, just want to point out one last time that there's no known inventory significant natural resources within 100 feet of the project's boundaries. And so for construction, our estimates are about a 12-month construction schedule starting in early 2025. We estimate about 300 construction personnel would be on the project at peak. So that's at the most busiest time of the construction schedule. Trades includes electricians, equipment operators, and general laborers. And during the operations and maintenance period, so the project life, we're expecting about 35 year lifetime for the operational period of the project. We also have potential to update the equipment on site or the technology and extend that useful life. There's minimal on-site maintenance. It's remotely monitored. We have routine and as-needed maintenance checks. The bulk of the maintenance is actually the vegetation management, and that includes what I'm going to talk to is the grading aspect of that. And as far as decommissioning goes, the objective of decommissioning is to restore the site to pre-facility condition or better. So we remove all the equipment through either recycling or salvage programs, and we restore any of the disturbed soils, including removal of fences and roadways. Any of the roadways or anything that the landowners wish to stay, we can work on that. Some of the provisions for financial assurance. So this includes 100% of the estimated cost of decommissioning at 10 years after our commencement of operations. And next slide, please. And a quick overview of our development timeline. So currently in 2023, 2024, we're in our development period and permitting timeline. And then in 2025, we'll enter our construction phase. At the end of 2025, we'll wrap up construction and then move into our operation and maintenance phase in Q1 of 2026. So our request is to adopt the Goal 3 exception as an amendment to the agricultural land element of the comprehensive plan. And it is subject to the following conditional approval. So as Elaine mentioned, this is our condition that is being proposed for the applicant shall revise the draft vegetation and weed management plan to incorporate a sheep grading program. This will include criteria for determining successful implementation of the program. An applicant shall annually report to the county to demonstrate ongoing success of the grazing plan. If the program fails to meet the success criteria, after the opportunity to implement adaptive management measures, the county may require the applicant to amend the vegetation and weed management plan to provide additional measures to ensure success of the grazing program.
Who would monitor that? So this is
So I think that would be developed during the drafting with the county of that plan, and we define the success criteria of what is success, what does that look like to the county, what does it look like to the grader, how do we appropriately manage that?
And then the applicant or the project would monitor the success throughout the year, and then that would be reported annually to the county in an annual report. Our thought is that you know, the timing and the details of that would be discussed and finalized with the county staff when we come in to submit a final re-veg and weed management plan.
Thank you.
That's it. Any other questions?
Yeah, I do, on the decommissioning plan, okay, you estimate 35 years, you weren't really clear on exactly. You had several different options on what would assure the decommission, but you seem to mention at least once, maybe twice, that salvage is going to be an important part. Could you talk to us and say, you're extrapolating out 35 years, what the salvage possibly going to, their returns going to be in order to help you decommission the site? Can you explain that a little bit more, how that's going to work?
Right. And you want to know that?
Yeah, sure. So we regularly engage with independent outside consultants that help us get an idea of what the salvage value of the materials is going to be. Difficult to predict the price of any commodity 35 years out. So I think they use, maybe 5 or 10 year forecasts on those, but repeatedly with solar farms across the country and of all different sizes, the salvage value of the steel, glass, silicon, all of it put together, copper wiring certainly, all of it together usually more than covers the cost of decommissioning. So we recently did a similar one up in Adams County, Washington. It's a little 3 megawatt project, not very big. I want to say the decommissioning cost was just over $100,000 and the salvage value was well over $500,000. So yeah, the salvage value is everywhere we go. It's enough to cover the cost of, really it's just pulling things apart and shipping them away and pulling the piles out of the ground and then regrading and reseeding or, putting topsoil back if it needs to go back in certain places, that kind of thing. So not a huge effort.
But is the salvage value going to determine whether or not you're going to be effectively be able to decommission your site and remove? Is that what I'm hearing?
So there,
I mean, if
No.
the salvage value doesn't reach a certain price, the decommission isn't going to happen.
no. So we are committed to providing
Not that I'm going to be here.
a decommissioning bond 10 years after the site enters service to the county. So we'll provide a bond. We'll refresh at that point, we'll get that third party independent evaluation of the project, the cost to decommission, the salvage value, and then provide a bond.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah, and you already answered the one I was gonna ask. If the grading doesn't work out, you have implemented backup plan to review.
Yeah, correct.
The grazing.
It'll be, if it does fail for some reason at that point, then we would be required to renegotiate with staff to figure out what we're gonna do next.
It sounded like you have one other site that has grazing experience on it.
So, One Energy, we're grazing 7 different sites right now, our projects. All of those are in the Midwest. They're all in Wisconsin and Minnesota. We've been working with, Cameron Krebs. Cameron is grazing several sites in Oregon and Washington right now in Morrow County. And he's going to give some public comment here. I'll let him speak more to his experience, but, we've seen his sites and he does an incredible job. So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think anybody knows more about shoots than that. we're pressing them on anything. So, yeah, okay, so you can't say anything, so. All right, I think that's all.
Thank you.
We have, you guys.
Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, y'all.
Thank you very much. Okay, does anybody else here want to testify in favor of this, application? There we go.
Good morning. My name is Cameron Krebs. I'm a resident of Morrow County, live in Boardman, Oregon. Here to speak in favor of an integrated goal 3 approach to vegetation on these solar farms. And would be happy to answer any questions that you guys might have around solar grazing. As stated by the applicant, One Energy, we are currently grazing 2 sites in adjoining counties. That's Gillum and Klickitat County. With over 5,000 head on each of those 2 sites. Would giving both vegetative consultation services to One Energy and site development, as well as actively managing head on the ground. So with that, I would take any questions, and then I do have a private statement that I'd like to make.
So on 739 acres, what's the average head that we graze that?
So vegetation in Morrow County can grow year round. The vegetation strategy focuses on fuel load mitigation. So it would be intensive grazing in the spring months when we have active growth. February, March, April, May, June. And then the goal is to talking about how we're going to monitor and measure. I would highly recommend that we use biomass reduction by mass. So if we can remove 80% of the annual carbon production, it won't be available for combustion inside the site. It will be turned into wool shirts, lamb, and manure. And so if we do run into the risk, which is fire, it's very close to the ground and of cool nature. So we're not getting equipment damage and or any release of any challenges into our surrounding communities. So spring would be high intensity, high stocking rates, depending on site and design and year. I'm estimating about 1.5 sheep per head per acre, but that could vary depending on a lot of variable factors. One of the key components that we've learned and been in discussion with One Energy is the re-veg plan as they presented, as far as having the right seed mix on the ground. Implementing the seeding plan appropriately is crucial, I think, to the long-term stability of the landscape and the success of a vegetative program relative to the site.
Chair, did I ask a question?
Yeah.
Appreciate your experience on this. One of the issues that we have with some of the other the solar and wind projects that we have throughout here is just the noxious weed control. How do you does the grazing? I know goats will eat anything, but with your experience with the sheep, have they been able to keep the noxious weeds down? And what's the success rate been on that with your experience?
Yeah, so the second part of mass reduction is weed management, right? Okay. So it's getting the right classification of stock to target whatever the goal is, right? When it comes to our A-list noxious weeds, we're gonna have to have an active weed management spray program probably in the early years. If you look at our native rangeland across the county, for the most part, once it establishes a balanced ecosystem of sod, soil, and grasses, we don't typically see expansion of our A-list noxious weeds into our rangeland. Where we see expansion of A-list noxious weeds or any noxious weeds is into disturbed ground, which does occur around the wind turbines and the solar site. This site coming out of dryland weed production does not have a seed bank of, highly desirable plant species, which is why I communicated to One Energy that having a seeding program to build that seed bank, pre-seed the site, build the site, actively seed during the growing season. We need to generate healthy seeds in that soil profile. And once we get a solid vegetative ecosystem, then our noxious weeds should stay into our disturbed areas, which are going to be our roadways, our PCSs, our entry and exit points of the site. And when we can manage that, then we can use some target. Well, I would recommend that they would use some target vegetative treatment on any of those potential noxious weeds. So the site, when it becomes rehabilitated with native or suitable grass and legume mixture, we should stabilize the ecosystem underneath the panels, and then the noxious weeds should reduce their ability to get a foothold inside the site. But the early years are gonna be crucial in monitoring the A-list weeds, or the weeds in general, and working together as we develop the plan of how we're gonna monitor it and then implement and manage it.
Appreciate that. That's just one of the issues that we're dealing with, and this is a new approach, which just sounds pretty creative and very proactive, so.
No, I just like to say, just personally, I'm glad to hear this. It sounds good. And I like to see mix where, making some more income off the land here in Morrow County. So it's a collaborative type of thing, I think it's good. Because I think we're all gonna have more of these solar farms ID locating here from what I've heard. So it's I'm encouraged. Sounds good. I like it. But it's a question. So that's all the statement I guess I want to make. Anybody else have any questions?
I would like to make one statement personally, as it relates to the way we cite solar farms going forward. We currently have, water issues in our north end. I do not believe that having solar sites with zero vegetation is the right approach to long-term management of this county, from, our water health, soil health, and our air health, with no organic matter to armor that soil. It is I believe, a slippery slope as we progress into large acreage of solar farms. So I would encourage you guys to continue to actively look at a sound vegetative portfolio, whether that includes grazing or not, that has a vegetative management, because it can provide ecosystems, not just for grazing, but for other wildlife in our area that will move into these sites as well. And I think that if we're going to transition from, agricultural or loaves of bread into something else, then we should do our best part as residents of this county to protect us that live here. So I appreciate your time today, and thank you guys.
It's good to what you said, though. It's for what you're doing too. I like it because it's not completely transitioning. You're mixing it, And I hope you make some money, and I'm not sure if we have another big one, if you're able to at least figure out, I don't know all the business behind it all. But if everybody's able to make a little money off it and make our economy work better, then that's the kind of thing that I think is good for the county. So appreciate that.
Just want to speak to that. I totally agree with you. My biggest concern is citing anything with bare earth.
Okay.
We know that from a carbon standpoint, we know that from water discharge and our SWIFT issues, we know that from everything that vegetation helps infiltration, and helps stabilize our soil. And bare earth in 35 years of bare earth really bothers me on these large scale solar sites. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wants to speak in favor of this? Is there anybody else on Zoom that wants to raise your hand? Okay, okay.
Kind of hard to follow a rock star, but Tim Rust, Echo, Oregon. Shannon and I have farmed the ground since 1986. Her family came here in 1979. We had a little reservation about solar, and but we had two goals, and one was weed control, and the other one was what you guys brought up about decommissioning. And so we were tickled that we could join forces with the Krebs family. We know what kind of people they are, and they do what they say they're going to do. So we're tickled to make the project go. The decommissioning thing is important to us because our heirs like you probably won't be around. But it's important that when it's over, that the ground goes back to its normal status, and they can farm again if they want to. And we felt like diversifying is not a bad thing. And so a little, for sure, money coming in to help pay the bills was not bad. So anyway, thank you, unless you have questions.
Well, thank you for your forward thinking, and being able to think about different things,
Yeah.
Because that's the future of our family here. So appreciate it.
Yeah.
Anyone else that has a, wants to speak in favor? You want to miss anybody? Anybody here want to speak in opposition? Is there anyone on Zoom that wants to speak in opposition to this request? And then we also have one more category. Is there anyone here that just wants to make a statement that's not negative or positive about this application? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public testimony portion of this hearing, and the commissioners will, commissioners, the two of us will discuss the record decision. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So I'll make a motion to approve the application to adopt the findings as presented and adopt ordinance ORB 2024-04.
I'll second. We're moving second. Any further discussion?
Sounds good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
And the second meeting will be on the 15th.
Okay. Sounds good.
And I amended the date on the.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Thank
you.
Everybody from the planning commission's on there, but thanks for their work too on that, you know.
Yeah,
There's still a lot of work under
they
there.
do.
Some of us being on there, we know that that's sometimes an unheralded job, that planning commission. Okay.
Here.
Yep.
We asked for consideration, the business item 6B
Yeah.
is also associated with One Energy Renewables on a previous project. I was wondering if you could just address that while we're still here, before they have to head out for their flights.
Same. Okay. So we'll jump to business item 6B. Is that what we're doing?
Please.
Okay. Request for refund of land use fees for One Energy Renewables.
Thank you, Chair. This should be pretty quick. You have the cover sheet here, same company, same group. Had submitted a similar application for another piece of property a year and a half ago. And for a variety of reasons, withdrew their application after the planning commission hearing. And we do have a hefty surcharge for energy projects. It's a topic Matt and I've been talking about, and we'll eventually come to you to maybe consider changing our fee schedule. But they've asked if the county would refund a portion or all of it, and the staff recommendation is to refund the surcharge portion, but not the $5,000 conditional use and goal 3 exception application fee. That would be, if it were not a renewable energy project, that would be the standard fee amount. Happy to answer any questions.
You know, on a deal like this, the only thing I like to see is consistency moving forward, you know?
Yeah.
Those people don't get the idea that it's all the carriers, you know, and we can point to pass. And so, you know, as long as you feel, you know, that the county's coming out whole, okay on it, you know, then that way, like I said, review the fees, just that way we can, the next person down the line, you know, well, you know, we have a history of this, and this is why we do it, that's all I have.
And I appreciate that, the fact that they are moving forward with their project, they're still considering the county. Didn't have all the information.
Any other questions? Are you recused?
I don't think so, because it doesn't, you can see it's involved in this. Would you agree with that?
Correct, I mean, just refund the project, and this is one that's not going through, right? It's not like there's any potential at that point for UBC to get money or withdrawn, just refunding money to the company, so I don't see any issue with it.
Okay. Any questions? No, okay. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to refund One Energy Renewables, in the amount of $37,000 in surcharge fee for the drawn trail solar application. And the county would retain $5,000 in energy fee to offset it.
Well, seconded. Been moved and seconded, further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. No problem. And we'll go home. Yeah, I'm moving back to order and we'll start in with business item 6A, compensation policy update, Lindsay. On that.
Morning. Great, so I'm here today to discuss some potential changes to the compensation policy. You remember back about a month ago, we discussed in a work session some compression issues that the teacher's contract caused after negotiations last year. And so we have worked between the admin team, the administrator, finance director, and myself. And we wanted to be able to provide some flexibility for the county administrator to be able to move incumbents a limited number of steps within the board approved ranges and grades of the county compensation structure. So if you will see to the policy, added a bullet point under rates of pay for step plans. So the first one is just that's something that we're already doing. I just thought it provided clarity to the policy that employees move a step on their position anniversary date, provided they have a satisfactory performance evaluation. And then added the line that, you know, on occasion, the county administrator may grant approval to a non-represented employee up to an additional 3 steps for specific consideration for compression and merit justification. And then, of course, you know, you could never go over the top step of the scale, so it wouldn't be outside of the constraints of the current county compensation system.
So quick like that. So the 1 step for anniversary and 2 to 3 steps on top of that.
So that could just be at a time when.
It's not necessarily at the anniversary.
No, no, it's not something to be considered on a regular basis. It would be, you know, in direct relation to like a compression issue or a correction or potentially a merit. Mm-hmm.
That's what
This is fairly general language, and it could be seen that, wow, county administrator can suddenly willy-nilly start giving these step increase raises as it is. It does give broad language for that way, but I would hope that we could allow that. We would keep this on very minimalist kind of thing, consideration when a manager isn't more than 5% over direct reports and that, and in some extenuating circumstances where we just have performance or just need to right size something. We do want to limit it to the 3 steps. I mean, that is substantial at certain points, but anything over that, we would bring to the BOC for approval.
And of course, there is a line item in the policy as well that says it would be an inherent to budgetary constraint. So if that wasn't budgeted, then that wouldn't be something that we would be able to do without potentially adjusting the budget or planning for the next fiscal year.
Right now, our hands are just shackled. Yeah, can't make adjustments.
Yeah, so right now, employees get a step increase on their anniversary date, and that's the only flexibility we have within the scale.
Is there kind of an average of what you step into? Is it been close to 2, 3, 4%?
There's 13 steps on the scale.
Right.
The first, let's say 4 are 5%, or the first 3 are 5%, then the next 3 are 4%, and the next 3 are 2%, and then the last 3 are 1%. So if you're at the beginning of the scale, it could be significant if you grant up to the full 3.
Right.
But if you're at the end of the scale, it could be a 3% increase.
Which is why you have to have the 3 president, you get the compression issue. Already agree with what we're at.
Yeah, we were our attempt was to try to give administration some sort of flexibility to work within the ranges, but not just to give free and complete control, without board oversight. And so we were trying to find a happy medium there, which is why we thought 3 steps would be, compliant with basically most of the issues that we have right now.
Especially with budgetary.
Mm-hmm.
Like those guardrails.
Yes, that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it does appear like this is helping, you know, a newer supervisor with a tenured crew. And you just make some adjustments there where they might be on the lower end of the steps. But they have some more tenured crew, so just make sure it's taken care of.
I can move to approve the subject changing to the payroll policy effective May 1, 2024.
All that.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Sylvie.
Mhm.
Okay, next up would be, our grant application, business oriented technical assistance for water, wastewater. Is that you, Matt?
That is, okay. So over the last quarter, we've had some good meetings with different agencies about the nitrate issue. One of the things that's been key is, as I mentioned last night at the city county board meeting, there isn't a single entity that manages or regulates private residential wells. And so it literally is a black hole. And yet when we look at this nitrate issue, almost 100% of the issue are private residential wells. One of the things that this commission has been, has emphatically put is we don't own the problem. We didn't cause the problem. This is an issue that's occurred, and we'd like to get to the bottom of it, which has led to the CDS grant programming with the Umatilla Morrow Dual County project for inspecting wells and such. However, with the state agencies and the microscope that's on it from public and that, we have a window of opportunity where we have a lot of agencies sitting here saying we'd like to show some actions. And while our well testing with the CDS grant is going to be bona fide and legitimate and GPS backed up, it's still just another round of testing. And in my mind, it will be the round of testing as we get things taken care of, but that's going to take about a 2-year period. One of the options that we've had as we've had this meeting is several of the state agencies have more or less said, what can we do to help? And one of the things that Business Oregon said is we have these technical consulting assistant grants in the amount of $20,000 that we can give for water, $20,000 for wastewater. And as we looked at it, we've looked at Westgaloob as a very unique and kind of dense solution there. And it's not to say that we know exactly what the nitrate exposure is from there, but they are all dependent on private residential wells. And they're all in septic tanks, and there's issues there. And it has become a bit of a poster child there. What we're asking for, what staff is asking for, is consideration from the commission to allow us to apply for those grants. I don't want to take action without having the commission's buy-in or output on this. Again, this is to study a possible solution to bring this area into a municipal type water and wastewater system. We anticipate that, those two things would be about $40,000. We anticipate a little bit more for roads, which would put the study about $50,000. This is not saying we're committing to put pipe in the ground. This is in order to get the information necessary so we can go to the residents of West Glen and say, if this is of interest to you, because your private residential wells have issues, these are the steps we need to do. This is the cost. If we need to explore a local improvement district for them or explore other options such as sand filters or other options that are to do this. This will help us rule out or at least come prepared as we were talking with the circuit court to eliminate some of the unknowns and say, here is a solution that's possible and bring that to the residents for their communication. Again, this is not a commitment by the county to go in and put in a water and wastewater system. However, it places it so if the residents want to engage and, you know, gather together, and it would take a little bit to form an LID, anywhere from 60 to 75%, depending on how the ordinance is written, and also engage in possible grants to pay for the system, which would require 75% participation in income, you know, sharing for a USDA grant. There's going to be several things that we have to do, but we need to have a ballpark figure. And I think this is a good opportunity for the county to take a leadership role using state resources in order to get some information in our hands that we can take to them and start having the message, we're here to help, but we need to help you solve the issue, and here's some of the options that we can work with you. And so we're asking for just the commission's consideration and approval for us to apply for these grants, and allow us to proceed with this leadership role in providing and gathering some information to take to the residents for solutions to the nitrates in the water.
Is there any match to the grants?
No, this is a technical assistance, so it's fully funded. Like I said, we do have some, and you know, if we wanted to put roads in, which is an unrelated issue to the nitrates, but if we could ball it all together, I think that would get some people who might not care about the water nitrates, but they're interested in the roads to get there. We are still exploring other options for any additional funding for this. And the state, we haven't went to H2OEO yet. But there's some other options, and including in the port, with their SCP plan that they're going to, there'll be, you know, a little over $550,000 that could go to helping this and implementing other programs that we're going to be looking into for areas that aren't so densely populated like West Glen is. And so again, this is not to provide a solution, it's to provide some answers to the residents, and is key to allowing the county to come forward as a leader on this issue, not taking ownership, but also saying, here's a tool for you as residents to overcome this nitrate water issue.
Well, I have several questions about this.
Please.
Now, you said you wanted to bring this grant application to us. Did you not have to?
I have in mind, whenever we're committing to staff and resources and it's not not previously approved in the budget, that I do not have authority to authorize that.
Well,
And so I
this leads me to the question of what department, I mean, it looks like what we're morphing into here is project managers for a West Glen water project, the county. And I'm wondering, what department is this being handled under? Is it, you know, I mean, is there, you know, is there a department, or is it just kind of several people getting together and talking about, is that how it's morphing? Because this could potentially be, you know, complex and big. Like I said, we keep saying we don't want to take the lead, but every time we're taking more of the lead. So what's what's the future here? Or how do you, are we just kind of going along? Are we gonna have a sweet Department of Public Works that they do? Is there planning, is public health, where's this falling within the county's, structure?
If any infrastructure development like this would be under the auspices of.
Well,
community
yeah, but
development.
we're not doing any infrastructure.
I-
I don't interrupt.
Any kind of development or research under this would be under the auspices of community development. The community development can be for county items or assisting municipalities to help bring about their items. We do not have a dedicated community development. So in that lieu, I'm a key player in that. I do have this, we have pulled in planning. Tamara's been a key and a continuing leader on the water issue. And we've pulled in Public Works to help discuss on these issues as
We're
well.
kind of an ad hoc department.
It is, we do not have a designated department.
And then I guess my other question is the other thing is, you had mentioned earlier that, yeah, the county's gonna have to put some resources toward this, probably matching grants and things like that. And, shouldn't there be, if we're gonna be, which it looks like we're project managers on this, and I'm not against it, trust me.
Yeah.
Not at all. It just seems to be that maybe we need to put a little structure. Should you have budget items? Should you have, certain people named in this community development department, or however you're forming it up and have a budget within the budget, but how much money are you gonna spend each year? Is there anticipated grant, you see what I'm saying, put a form to this? Because we're getting into areas where the county, well, outside of public works, this seems to me, if you're taking a leadership role and doing, what I see as a large, infrastructure project, wouldn't that be within public works their expertise?
So I would actually say, again, this would fall under what you would typically say is community development. We do have a community development area in the budget. This also covers tourism and some other minor items. We do have some consulting money, I believe, dedicated in this for fiscal year 25 to review these kind of things. We do not have a prototypical community development director on this. And therefore, from there, I rely on the several different department heads to task in on that. And this would be something that we'd be continuing to do, and so we go there. Now, Public Works, they're kind of the final delivery. They're when shovel ready, you get through, they give us feedback on the front part, but working through any types of grants, coordination, public outreach, that's more community development.
Yeah, I didn't disagree because they've done a heck of a job at the airport, and they've gone that from top to bottom. Grant applications, RFPs, everything. So I guess what I'm saying is, let's game this out, okay? So we get into, I don't know, I have no idea what this project is gonna cost. With any of you guys, and I'm not saying we're gonna pay for it, but what would it cost to put in this project in West Point? Any idea, Jeff? You got an idea? 20 million? 50 million?
Yeah, I think it depends on the project.
Well, just, okay,
If you're gonna look into municipal water, if you're gonna
let's just put an imaginary figure, $50 million, okay, I don't know, I can say $1. Okay, so what's the county's role? Okay, say even the money's available, okay, without any county participation. Are we going to engage the engineers to design it? Are we gonna put out the RFPs? And who's gonna do this? A community development group that is not a department? Or public works? You see what I'm saying? If we're going down this road, at least
Well, I think where you're going, Dave, is that it moves beyond even just West Land project. So if we do the GSA water solutions deal, they come up with solutions to serve the individual person that's really not around anybody else. Like the solution is there, that, we get the other directed spending that will pay for improvements or extra guard or, different areas. Again, you know, there never has been the discussion, who is going to administer these grants and who's going to oversee these projects?
The challenge with it though, is the feds have money, the states have the regulation. We don't have anybody to implement actual projects. And therefore, and if it's outside the city boundaries, it falls on the county.
That's a good thing we're having this discussion.
Yes. And so I really think as we're looking at the 2-county CDS thing, study, as we open this up, there will be more projects, more funding that will become available to us. And we do have to set some way to take care of that. Now, in case of West Glen, one option is to create a local improvement district and you just turn it over to them.
See, and there again, I'm not myself, I'm not really talking about specific solutions to specific problems.
Yeah.
I'm talking about what the county structure, because we don't know what the solution is, and whether, we don't know that. And I'm not gonna sit here and try to figure that out right here, but what I'm trying to say is, you know, you look at the departments in the county, where is this effort we've kind of fallen into? You know, where is it within our structure? Who's gonna be responsible? How are we gonna arrive at these decisions on what to do? You know, we said previously that we're gonna we have knowledge, which we do. Tamara's very knowledgeable and she's learning more all the time. You're knowledgeable, you know, in these things. But then it was thrown in there, well, we might have to come up with some money. See, to me, and then you start looking at a big infrastructure project right in the face, and there's money available. Sure, but that doesn't mean we're prepared to do something. And you could say, well, we're community development, but we have no community development department. We have nobody outside of Public Works that has experience in these kind of large projects, you know, that I know of, that would be able to handle this on a day. I mean, we're becoming project managers. And I just think it needs to be, myself, I don't know about you guys, I think we need to think it out, especially from what Jeff said, because yeah, everybody wants to do something with West Glen, I do too.
Yeah.
And one thing is, I'm afraid that if you get that done and everybody gets to go there and say we did something, is the money still gonna be available there for the rest of the 930 wells, you know, in Martin County, is what I'm told. There's 1,000 and there's 70 on the West Glen. What about the rest of them? And you hope the money's still there. You hope they don't say, okay, we got this project done and we're done. Morrow County, you're on your own. And we're sitting here going, and everybody's going, well, you did it for West Glen, what about us?
Yeah.
I just think there needs to be a little more thought and process and defining who's responsible for where we're going. And somebody was, do we have people with expertise in this? Or we're not just out there winging it. And, I mean, it's a righteous thing we're doing, believe me. People need fresh water. But I think it's our responsibility to make sure it's done correctly and with the most judicial use of county funds.
The old saying, no good deed goes unpunished, right?
Yeah, and I think we've seen that already. It's I mean, we're gonna have get hit with, the water factory problems, our problem already, and why? Because we stood up and said something about it. And the more we stand up, the more it's gonna be our problem. I stood up from the get-go, I think you remember, and I'm not against it. It's just that, let's figure out where we're gonna go rather than just go along and then take all, and what, we end up taking all the black, it doesn't go, let's say it again. Yeah. The state of feds, if they, at one time, they had a project manager for this. Her name was Gabrielle.
Gabrielle Goldfarb.
Whatever happened to her?
She's public health. Yeah.
I didn't catch that.
Gabriella is with
public health, Oregon Health Authority, which doesn't look at the law.
Yeah, she's kind of, okay, so she's handling the immediate.
The water delivery.
Phase one water delivery, okay, and we're talking phase two. Has the state offered anyone up like that?
No, but the state last week told us that we should be doing more and engaging the public more.
Well, because they thought that we're willing to, you know, they don't want to, they would give it to us, the whole thing if they could, you know that, you know. So, and like I say, I mean, that's a push and shove amongst local and state governments all the time, and federal too.
In this
To me, it
instance,
just seems to, you know, if there is some thought going into what we're doing, where we're going, and does the county have the. I mean, I know we have the knowledge, like I say, I think town is getting to the point where she will not, you know, a lot about it, we're learning more all the time. So we have the knowledge to offer, and we have, Kevin's an excellent finance guy. We've got the system set up to handle grants and things, I think he's doing pretty good on that, would you agree? I mean, you know, and all the things that come along with it, the auditing and all that. So then we're pretty good, but now, you're talking about actual, well, we haven't started putting pipe in the ground, that's actual project management. That's letting bids out for a big infrastructure project. You know, that's how public works today. Not, you know.
Or the other option, Dave, is that when you write the grants, you write in there a contract, construction manager, a consultant that manages the project, and then the grant goes through.
That's kind of thing I think we need.
And then we just have, you know, some staff time devoted to administering grants, and if we get, as Kevin had told us a year ago, our cost base, so we aren't just capped at 10%, we can show what our actual costs. Then we can adequately recruit those costs and administer those grants.
See, and that's good because Tamara, you and Kevin, that's within your area of expertise. You know, to me, have the money there to hire a project manager. You know, to be hiring a project manager to take West Glen, just like we are with the circuit clerk. We're not trying to do that ourselves, see. Have the cost built in. And we use our knowledge, which we have. And I think it's where we have our, where we get, where we can do the best and not get in dire straits because we don't know what we're doing. We need to do what we're good at. You know, not because what our heart tells us.
and in doing that, I mean, this, in this, yes, the state's sitting around saying, what can you do? Because they aren't in a position to do it.
They do?
No, what can we?
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
And in this, you know, it's like, hey, you want technical study grants? We'll open all the doors and windows and let you get what you need. And so this is one of those things where the county is at that focal point because we're the boots on the ground able to impact things. And they are supplying money. Now, I'll say that $10,000 that I said we might need to match, that's a road issue, that's a county thing, that's just been floating out there for the last 25 years.
Oh, I thought you were flying out to the water, and you were talking about matching.
No, so the $20,000 for water.
Well, that was this project before, when we were talking about, oh, the county, I was asking, we were the whole after, what was the county's cost gonna be in jumping into and taking on the responsibility of the water?
True.
Yeah, you said, well, we might have to come up with some matching money for grants. Well, I thought that's what you were talking about here.
So the $10,000 is to accentuate the roads aspect.
Okay,
of
that's
it.
fine, roads. Yeah,
Because
that's our project.
I mean, and quite honestly, it's kind of like, well, you guys want roads, let's get you water and sewer as we go through it. And for the people who are worried about water and sewer, while we're at it, let's get you some roads, so it just keeps it all good. Now,
We have a road department, we don't have a water and sewer
I know.
department.
And this, you know, and as we look at this, we've been told, and hopefully it comes about. If this study gets really pinpointed, if other items and with the Laquana and other items get accelerated, we will need to look into some kind of contract position that's probably or an on-staff position that's hopefully funded by federal or state, funds. Hopefully. I mean, if we got that much money coming in to justify that project, we wanna embed that as part of their, the cost. And whether that's a community development person or a engineer who can handle these things, that might be what's down the road. And this is it is a first step to saying the county will start showing you options that can be taken care of. But it's also, I think on this one, we're specifically looking at LID or sand filters. We come back to them and say, here's an option. This will require your help and your coordination to get this thing done.
There then it gets into solutions, but I'm thinking more of structure of the county government to move forward, how we're gonna move forward. That's what I'm talking. I'm not sitting there
Very
gonna,
valid.
whether it's a sand filter or it's not, because I have not, none of us have any expertise in that, you know? And, you know, and you could say, well, the state has some money to do testing, okay. Then you go, okay, we're gonna take it because it's there. Is there somebody that says, okay, because it seems to me like we have a big huge grant to hire this high price water engineers. Now we're kind of chunking off a piece to do a little something, sounds to me to be the same, faster, accelerated. And we're gonna get this money in and you see, that seems kind of, I just want to get, I think we ought to get or talk about it or get a handle. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe we ought to, I just want to get a handle on where the county's going and what's our role in this whole thing. And maybe we're, you know, make sure we stay in our area of expertise and not thinking, well, we can do everything. We can help these people. We can brand this project. We can put out RFPs for big, infrastructure projects. We can do this. We can do that. Well, maybe you can. But, you know, without flubbing it and stubbing our toes.
And
let's use our areas where we're good at, which is your experience, Tamara's knowledge and experience, Kevin's financial ability, those type of things. To direct and tell people this is what you need to do. We need more money to hire a project manager to take care of this. See, use our influence and our knowledge to do that. See, that's my thought. You guys might think something different. I may
No, I think you're
crazy. I'm better out, you know, heartless. That's why I'm heartless, because I don't want to go out and, you know.
My thing's always been, if you come up with a solution that creates more problems, you've gone backwards. Right, so I get what you're saying, I know what you're getting at, we could get ourselves in over our head in a hurry.
Right, and I like taking the assets that we have and using them to the max, so that's what I think we just understood, is Tamara and Matt and Kevin and so forth, and using them to the max, and not trying to act like we are the, you know, we're the do all and be all for everybody.
so one thing though is it would be easy to say, let's wait for the CDF funded project. And in the next 26 months to plot out all the wells, which they won't be able to plot out all the wells because they don't have that much money before we come up with a plan of attack. That would be easy. And during that 26 months, we're kicking like
that would be easy, Matt. I think that would be hard because you're gonna take a bunch of flack.
So
because everybody wants you to, I think the easier way is to go do something that we're doing, because then you're showing the public you got something going. To me, it's harder to stay back and keep telling them that, hey, we're taking care of this, and they go, no, you aren't, you're just doing another study. Nothing's happening. See, that's hard to me.
And you have, especially if we can get the SEP set up so that the county is the fiscal agent for the fine monies from the port over the next 24 months while we're waiting for this, for the other study to be completed, we will have over $1 million that will have to be put into the application. We won't be able to sit on that. Because they're gonna say, we have nitrate fines, they need to be going to a project, not just into a bank account. And that's something that we will need to work on. So we've got these window of opportunities of monies that are not coming from county tax base or other revenues that someone's got to direct. And forgive me on the viewpoint of the state, I'd rather have the county take it and try to put it to application rather than it get swallowed up and back out and say,
This is exactly what my point is. We're using our knowledge to direct this.
so in my site, this small grant application, which I think will go through, green lighted all the way through, gives us an opportunity to look at this. And then if we want to apply for other grants and come back to you saying we need to contract with a consultant to manage these grants will be in a linchpin in helping us to proceed in that direction.
That's what I think I think you and Tam and Kevin and everybody, I think you've been doing a heck of a job with this nitrate myself. Look at how far we've come.
And again, even if we get these studies and it shows it, we're gonna want someone who's gonna go chase the additional funds from federal, state, local, not so much the local, federal, state, in order to do that. I'll say local because of the port.
Well, the port and industry, right? There's industry that's, AFIO is part of that industry program, and there's money available through that as well, so.
I mean, right now, we could just say, you know, and like you said, even with the ports at SCP, they're like, they are very positive that they haven't caused the issues in West Platte, where they do their water stuff and that. But they're also saying it's a low hanging fruit. We want to do this and let's look at other solutions for more rural people where looking into a municipal system is just infeasible.
Well, exactly. And the good part of that is the port is here and we all know them. We can go talk to them. We can work with them. We can say, hey, we can do this. They could say, could you guys do this? You know, they could go and try to get the money, you know, from the fire or whatever they're doing and work in conjunction with us.
Yeah.
As long as it stays even.
And let me just, a hypothetical projection. We get these grants, we get this going, get the study going over the next 3 to 6 months. We get the SCP funds that will help complete this study and build that out a little bit, and we take off some of those funds and maybe set it up so that we have subsidized sand filters for people who are over that 40 particles for whatever for things.
You need to have somebody that knows what they're talking about.
Yeah,
It's like, that knows whether, then they're gonna decide if it's sand filters, not me, you.
Yeah, it is a known option, so,
Well.
but let me show you my hypothetical. So we
It shouldn't be our decision.
we put away some of the SCP funds for those type of solutions. We won't determine them, but we'll get in those. And then the next SCP thing that will happen next year, Lisa says we're gonna get hit one more time, at least. We have those monies ready to act as any kind of matching for USDA grants, CDBG grants, anything on West Glen. And we're taking care of it. We are managing, but we are not saying that we're gonna fund it out of the overall tax base.
Fund it or be expected to make it. As soon as it starts moving into a solution, we're in over our heads because we don't know anything about sand filters or putting in infrastructure. None of us.
No, but we would gather the team to do it.
Exactly. So instead of, when you get to the point where, well, gee, maybe we ought to talk about putting some sand filters in, that's when you get an expert in to say, okay, maybe sand filters, whatever. I mean, I'm just going from maybe deeper wells, maybe find somebody that knows that business. Rather than, you know, we'll take it right up to where we're good at. And getting the grant, administering, planning it out, talking to the port, all these things. We know the country, we know the locals, we know this. When we get to the point of implementation.
I think it's all gonna come down to the individual wetland owner to be the sole responsible person for deciding what their solution is and how they're gonna get the money, right? And if we can help in that by getting them connected to the right people for the grant and for low interest loans. That's the avenue we should take that through, not owning the solution, but helping
Exactly.
construe the solutions
Exactly right.
through the landowners.
It's just like,
Because you know that, it's well lighted that there's 72 houses in West Glen, and they don't all agree, right? They're not all gonna say, well, I wanna do this, or I wanna do that. So if they are the ones who ultimately make the decision of the avenue they go down,
exactly.
and we're just there to help come up with the grants.
Exactly.
And not even come up with it, but steer them. in
And
the
you show them the
direction.
way. It's like I've always thought with the roads, when we were down at the meeting, the AOC meeting, and all the road people were there, and they all hated public access roads. And they talked to them afterwards, and, and that's the way they did it, is you provide the leadership. You show people how to form the district. You get people lined up, but the people there have to, they have to actually do it. Or they have to sign up, whatever percentage, you tell people, okay, you want roads? Go and get 60% of the landowners and have all the names of the landowners. That's not more, the county can find out. Say, okay, go out, get 60% of the people signed up. And then we'll help you move to the next step. So. But, the people in the end, they do, they have to do it.
You can't force them to do anything.
No.
It's their decision.
Okay, what about the grant application? Well, I'm not ready. We want a motion, we gotta suggest a motion on that.
I didn't see one. Didn't have to put one on there.
There's one there.
Oh, there's one I'm looking at.
It's a motion to authorize county staff to apply for 2 business Oregon technical assistance grants for exploring water and wastewater treatment costs in the West Lake community.
So, motion.
Sure.
I'll second.
Move and second, further discussion. I would like to reiterate one more time, I'm gonna say something, and we are not against West Glen and doing a nice project right away. I mean, I think we can all say that. I just think, well, we talked about it, but that's what I want to make absolutely sure that everybody knows and hears. That, we just want to do it right. And we want to look down the road, knowing there might be another West Glen come along, or there might be other small solutions come along, and what structure and what process are we gonna use to do them, Okay, that's my agree. And use our area of expertise and what we're good at. All in favor? Aye. All opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Department reports, Public Works.
Good morning, Commissioners. Afternoon.
1 minute back.
In the month of April. Significant activities at the airport include some new drone testing operations performed by an out of area company. They've come in seeking an airport that's quiet, away from a lot of structures where they don't have possible strikes. And they started their testing a couple of weeks ago. They've been in and out. Morrow County, we are being compensated for the time they spend here, and actually looking at some storage options as well that we would charge them for. They'll be at least throughout this summer doing their testing. There's been no issues so far, except me getting in their way. Also coming up, I realize it's in the month of May, but Sandy has been promoting the Young Eagles event that's coming up this next weekend. Free flights for youth between the ages 8 to 17, just to promote youth in aviation. So that'll be coming up this weekend. Looking forward to seeing all the planes flying around Lexington. Facility maintenance, outside of day-to-day operations, as Matt mentioned, been working on a cost analysis to do some drilling and blasting out at the, behind the fairgrounds on the other side of the creek to see about increasing parking back there. There's looking at about 20,000 cubic yards, so I'm getting different companies to look at it, not just one. Our weed department, they've been out spraying, doing the roadside this month, as weather permits. And Corey, our weed manager, he's also been very busy working on weed mitigation plans for the energy projects, as you all know, and also some contract weed spraying. We did lose our part-time weed applicator. However, already have another one in place. In fact, he's starting today, so that felt really good to have that happen so quick. And thanks to Lindsay and Corey for getting that done so quickly. Up at the parks, they're getting all ready for the season. They've been working on trails and facilities. We plan to open the OHV park before Mother's Day this year, weekend before, so it's coming right up. We do have a contractor to run the landing. Signed an agreement with that, and they're looking to be open 7 days a week this year. I believe I read all the way until 10 p.m.
Oh, wow.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yeah, brunch. I didn't really see on the menu any breakfast type items, but it'd be like 10 o'clock. More lunch.
Think about scheduling our meeting up there? That's fun.
Yes, it is.
I like it.
I did read a possibility about a prime rib night as well, which should be good. So that's the plan. Looking forward to that for sure. They're getting all their water sample testing done for their reporting to get things opened up. For the roads, they've been out working hard, doing their chip sealing and preparing for paving, widening shoulders, just for the upcoming season there. We have secured contracts for some contract paving up in the Boardman area, and our rock crushing contracts are in place. I'm excited about that, opening up a new pit in up in the Ione area. And recently, oh, excuse me, I said that. So the chip sealing is underway. Are there any questions for me regarding the public works activity? All right.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much. Okay, Kevin's finance report, I don't think we'll put that in there, but.
He was not feeling, or he's gonna do a quality report, but he ended up not feeling good and having.
Okay. So that concludes our department report, correspondence.
I've got two letters, don't need to just summarize them or read them.
Just so
Okay, the first one is from the National Association of Counties. They worked on a children's book called The Marvelous Adventures of Countyland. And it's just to educate children on, county workers and government workers. And they used AI. And then if you guys want copies ordered for the county or for libraries, they included information on how to do that. And I've got a copy here if you guys want to see it after the meeting. And then we have another letter from Braver Angels. It's an organization that works to unite rural and urban Oregonians. They work to have an even split between left and right-leaning individuals to promote debates, workshops, and discussing issues with the urban-rural divide. They've got a online community debate scheduled for June 12th, and they hope that they'll get attendance from you and others. They also included information on joining Braver Angels, there can be wait times because, like I said, they want to keep a really even split between blue and white for bipartisan evenness. And they've got workshops coming up as well. And I'll include both of these in the minutes.
Sounds like a debate manager.
Yeah. That sounds like that, all right.
And I did stress that the discussions are strictly moderated, to keep everything civil and academic.
Civil and academic, what is that? I mean, I don't think in Columbia University it's civil and academic. I don't think anybody. Anyway, no, I shouldn't be, I'm not making fun of it, it's just funny to hear those words nowadays. Okay. Commission reports, commissioner reports.
Oh, yes, since last time we had the CEA meeting and Umatilla County was proposing to rescind the vote that, gave the Morrow County property, Fort Morrow, and Umatilla County property, toward Umatilla. And Ken Pusey said he had no appetite to do that. He's chairman. I know we don't, and Fort Morrow doesn't, so it's a non-issue. I don't know what they are looking to do next. If they have any plan of action, you know, Schaefer's been in the newspaper saying that he's gonna take action, but nothing's happened. And Greg Smith was, talking about he needed some money to do some projects, so he's asking for 100 acres to, they will sell, a little bit on the Umatilla County side. MPD wanted to know if Morrow County was going to do something, a subsequent conversation with Lisa, sounded like she had reached out to Ken, the Morrow County through the port, maybe putting up some property. Greg didn't sell, which would generate money to do some of the projects that. But my stance was when they talked about, you know, paying some of the bills and stuff, is that those are responsibilities of the landowners. You know, with ownership comes responsibility. Unless you two direct me otherwise, that will continue to be my position.
Well, I go to most of the meetings, I think you're doing a great job, doing what my philosophy is.
Junior?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else you wanna talk about?
I figured you were right on hit the broadband.
I'll let you, I can't talk about it yet, that's why I said you do. That's so might have left something happen.
So the broadband consortium did authorize bringing in grants for the federal dollars. And the application, I believe, the final, what Nick sent out was 66 miles worth of fiber, 203 passings. $167,000 coming from the county, which was going to come from the $500,000 that Amazon gave to the consortium. And it was what, $3.5 million ask. Right. And we'll see if it's successful. And the grant is being submitted, and then again, we have to wait to see if we're successful, and then if we are, then we'll get to the consortium to determine whether or not we go forward under the term. One of the things that hasn't been discussed is really what is the exit plan for the consortium. Some of these projects are built, who's responsible for the ongoing maintenance and expenses related to the fiber backbone. That still hasn't been determined. You know, so I think that's a discussion that we have to have, Nick, to have with the boards, because because as it kind of presented there, the consortium is going to be responsible for paying for the maintenance of the line. You know, Blue Mountain says, well, they'll pay for it, but if because they're going out towards Lake Ranch and forest fire went through and burned it down, we'd be on the consortium. The consortium would be on the hook for insuring it. You know, there's other expenses that again, I know that there's port commissioners, and I don't believe that we want to be in the broadband business. We will, but still like people getting grants.
David doesn't laugh, it's not our purview.
Yeah, still pay someone getting grants, but beyond that, so there's more discussion to be had. I mean, there is the distinct possibility that we're awarded the grants, but we can't come to terms on the fine details. We may have to turn like that with this. First of all, where we're going to come from to do these things, who's going to manage it? It's ongoing expenses that I don't think any of us want to take on. Anything else there, Dave?
No, just I would add this, you know, to back up what you said, when I got that email from the neighboring county that said, would you please contact me and we need some help setting up our bat, you know? And I'm thinking, see, that's a perfect example of what we do well. I mean, we put together a consortium. We got Aaron Moss and he did it, but we worked together with the port. You see, to me, that shows what we're good at, you know. You know, we don't have an ISP department, but we're able to put together the point where we're applying for a grant and they're talking about putting their team together. They're like 2 years behind, right?
Yeah, we were fortunate that someone funded Aaron for the.
I know,
years.
but we
Embraced it.
Yeah, we embraced it. See, when Philip said we have some money, people go, good, let's talk, let's do this. And that's exactly what we did when some of the other things we're talking about. We took their money, we got Aaron on board. Chris helped put the coalition together. We knew the people at the port to talk to, please. So to me, that's kind of a good example of what we do well. So. Good, really, anything?
Nothing we didn't cover last night, but, there is, been contact with Wyden's office and on the water issue, there is some, available avenues for getting individuals, grants and low interest loans, and we're looking forward on that. And then we have a meeting on, when is the meeting, Valerie, for the wolf depredation, the 14th? May 14th, May 14th. And we have had 2 confirmed wolf calf killed by wolves. So we'll have to dive into that and get compensation moving forward.
Quick thing is, I'm on the subcommittee for the daycare. And that, I think this kind of goes back to what we were talking about too, is, I had approached them in the beginning. And, because I had met with people before from, the Small Business Development Center that knew how to write business plans, and I suggested to them, you know, well, maybe, you should have a business plan if you wanna expand the daycare and get something going, you know? So I contacted Small Business Development, set up a lunch with Lindsay and the guy from there sat down and had lunch, Buckman's. And, got that ball rolling and, you know, they're very appreciative of what the county's done for them and, you know, so.
That's a big need right now.
Yeah, and it's, you know, we're cognizant of, they've been had outreach to Debbie Rady, who's. I told them, I said, you know, it's a big, you know, we're a countywide organization, so, you know, and they go, we know, that's a very smart, aggressive group, I'll tell you. On that, on the daycare, they're very good to work with because they really know what's going on. And they're not afraid to charge forward, and they are charging forward. I think they're gonna be successful. So, anyway, I want to speak up about health. CREZ, we had a CREZ meeting yesterday. And we kind of know what happened there. Got a extension going down here in the south end, which I thought was pretty good. There's something going on. And what else? Kind of repeating one. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess that's all.
So did Is there an incubator in each of the three towns? Did Erie get an incubator and Hefner got an incubator? and-
Well, I think this hasn't been funded and it's,
Oh, it hasn't been.
no, it's the site they're looking at is down by the
Extension.
one we rejected.
Yeah.
But they were saying that yesterday, Aaron and them were talking about their, they got some money going there.
They're Erie incubator, yeah. That's why I was curious. I just heard about the one here. I didn't know they were all.
Yeah. So, anything else to come before the commission? Matt, anything you wanna throw in there?
Very good.
All righty. Justin, kick in there.
Right there, yeah. Well, let me say, oh, no.
Okay. All right, well, okay, and then I'll, adjourn and sign it out. That's what we do.
This one, probably.
Listen to Kenny,
The regional